Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Board, with a Monday show after an embarrassing loss to the Indianapolis Colts. Every single Monday, I go live at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific, to sit back here and talk about the game that we witnessed the day before. Now, I'll be honest, when I first thought that I was going to be doing this show every single Monday, I didn't realize we were going to be doing so many damn losses. But the reason why I want to be able to sit up here and talk about this game is because I went home yesterday, and today is my wife's birthday. Happy birthday to my amazing wife, Alex. And, yesterday we were with her family. We had some dinner. I was with Chuck. I didn't really think about the game because after that game, I let all of my emotions out. I think we all let all of our frustrations out, and that's really what I want to be able to do after a game. But then at the same time, you sit there and you think, and you watch some of the film and you go back and you're like, well, could we have done this? Could we have done that? I want Monday shows to really, really be the opportunity for us to talk about a little bit more. Because when you lose the game, there's just emotions, right? It's a lot of emotions, and sometimes that is overwhelming after a Raiders game. But on the Monday morning, when you guys see me go live, I saw earlier there was a comment that said something along the lines of, Mitch is probably going to give up if this keeps happening. I'll promise you this right now. You ain't getting rid of me. Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, you ain't getting rid of me. If I can deal with the Josh McDaniels years, if I can deal with all the losing that the Raiders have been doing, there's nothing that the Raiders are going to do that's going to get rid of me. Now, the thing that would make me stop doing this show is if Raider Nation stopped watching. Here's the thing, though. I do really, truly believe that with Raider Nation, with this program, we have the loudest voice in the NFL. Out of any NFL team, I cover here at Chat Sports, there's a lot of different teams here. There's the Cowboys report. There is the 49ers report. We have a very successful Bears channel. Humbly, I think the Raiders report has the loudest voice out of any team fan base on the entire planet because of the people that watch this show. So I mean this when I say this. If you need a vent session today, hashtag Raiders or Super Chat, let's talk about it. If you want to prove me wrong, like I saw Gutierrez earlier today in the chat was like, Mitch, you called me an idiot for saying Geno Smith stinks. Hey, don't be afraid. Call me out, right? Like, I want to be able to do this show where if you guys had a take that was right, let me hear about it. If you got a cool stat that you want to talk about, let me hear about it. Because today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk about, yes, that game yesterday. We'll kind of recap it a little bit, and we'll talk about some of the good. Not a lot of good. We'll talk about most of the bad. A lot of bad. And I think we just got to keep on hammering, Geno Smith, Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly. A lot of different things to talk about. The other statement, though, the other segment that I'm going to be doing on today's program, it's going to be around some, I'm not going to lie to y'all. I'd sent out a lot of text messages yesterday. And I said even a little bit earlier on the show that I did my Monday overreaction. There are some issues, and I'm just going to call them issues, brewing in Las Vegas between some players and some coaches. I'll get into what that is necessarily coming up here on today's program, but I sent out a bunch of messages yesterday. I'll be real. I didn't pay attention to any of the messages that I received because I was like so over that game, and all I wanted to do was be able to focus on, like I said, my wife, the family dinner that we had, and just the family and Chuck in general. I checked out some of those messages today. I did get one text back, and I got an interesting quote. And then when you pair that with some other things that are being reported right now by the Raiders, well, I think what I'm going to talk about, and I want to be very clear, I am not a Raiders insider. I don't try to be a Raiders beat reporter. Why? Because I think I get more information than half those guys anyway. But also, I'm a Raiders fan where if I get information, I share it with you. I share information based on me being a Raiders fan going, oh, that's really interesting. So when you see some of the issues that are brewing right now in the Raiders locker room with the players and coaches, it kind of makes a little bit more sense why that game ended up being the way that it was yesterday. Then let's talk about some storylines that we're heading into Week 6. And this show is going to be a little bit different compared to what I do my other, storylines heading into Week 6. I'm calling out a lot of people this week. I'm at the point where if Pete Carroll and Geno Smith, when they take the podium, if it's a lot of words with no actions, well, then I'm going to keep on saying words until either Pete Carroll or Geno Smith give me an action. Because right now the only action Geno Smith has given me is Geno was all on my side when we were hooting and hollering for him in the offseason. You know what I've noticed now? I can't tag Geno. That sounds pretty damn soft to me. If you're going to get paid millions upon millions of dollars, it comes with the territory that this is an entertainment. And if you don't have the mental strength to be able to handle when a guy like me's tagging you, you shouldn't be the quarterback of any NFL franchise. If you don't know, if you want to get your questions, your comments in, it's hashtag Raiders or Super Chat. It's going to be the way that this show goes. And if you're looking right now, I did give you guys a goal, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit. But no matter what, if you're watching the Raiders Report, my biggest goal this year is, even if the team stinks, let's find ways to put smiles on each other's faces, right? Hanging out with y'all, talk with y'all, puts a smile on my face. Being able to get a little bit wet and wild with the nation puts a smile on my face. Being able to cover Monday Night Football, being able to just have a good time, even if the Raiders stink, will put a smile on my face, and I hope it does for you as well. Also, put a little bit of money in your pocket. Maybe that'll put a smile on your face. If you want to get in, $10 Venmo, Mitchell Renz 365. So let's now talk about this question here. Should the Raiders bench Geno Smith? Give me a yes. Give me a no. I'm going to give some shout-outs here, and this is going to be kind of how we're going to open up the can of worms, if you will, for this Monday live show. And I know I already see a lot of questions rolling in. I'm telling y'all right now, the way that this Monday show needs to happen every single week, we need questions. Lots and lots and lots and lots of questions. But right now, I'm seeing this. Nothing but yeses down below. I see Mike says yes. Percival says yes. What do we have to lose? Isaac Hernandez, today's MVP so far, says yes. Fernando says no. Matthias, no. Raider Nation 80 says yes. Witherspoon's going to go no. As you can see right now, it's very, very split. And if you watched my overreaction show, I'm not going to lie to you, I also said yes. And the reason why that I said yes is because, one, got really nothing else to lose. Reason number two here is, if you watch the film, you will see how many open receivers Geno Smith is not seeing. You will see how long Geno Smith is hanging on to the football. You will see his, honestly, the panic that is in his eyes. And, you know, I've been probably one of the biggest Geno Smith truthers up here across the world this entire offseason. No doubt about it. I've been one of the biggest guys. But I think when you do this job, you have to be able to give takes. And yes, the NFL is a week-to-week business, but we've seen now a sample size of Geno Smith for 4 straight weeks where he looks like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. And if we're okay just doing whatever the hell Geno's going to be out there doing, then we're not trying to win this season anyway. The problem is, I thought we are trying to win. At least that's what Pete Carroll told me. Pete Carroll told me a few months ago that this team's going to win a bunch of games. Pete Carroll yesterday also said that this is a team that he thought was going to be winning football games. It's hard to win when your quarterback stinks. It's hard to win when you don't have anybody leading this team. And right now, the Raiders have no identity. They have no quarterback. And quite frankly, I don't know if they have any leaders on that team. Because I'll tell you this, the guys wearing the C's on their chest, they need to wake it the hell up. I'm also talking to you, Max. I know Max is an incredible player, but you can't just keep on sitting back, no comment. It's time for somebody that wears a C on that chest to stand up in front of some players, to stand up in front of some coaches and challenge some people. If nobody on that Raiders roster's got the balls to do it, I will, at Mitchell Renz 365. Let's go to Isaac Hernandez. What up, man? Happy birthday to my wife. Yes. She is all about birthdays, and I don't know about y'all. Like, again, I celebrated my birthday growing up. My birthday is February 20th. I always celebrated it with my younger cousin, who her birthday was on the 21st. So for me, maybe it was like, birthdays aren't that big of a deal. I don't know if it's just Mexican women. I don't know if it's Latinas, but, dude, it's a birthday month. We've been celebrating. We celebrate on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Today, she's going to be with her mom and her family the entire day. But, you know, like, to me, this was a hard day to be able to justify in my mind. One, because obviously I wanted to spend time with my wife. Obviously, I wanted to be able to spend time with the family. And then after that Raiders performance, you know, I was kind of battling myself a little bit. But I do always believe this, that there's jobs that need to be done, and I care about my job a lot. Obviously, I care about my wife more, but happy birthday to my wife, Alex, no doubt. Angel, I called in sick from work today. Compete my ass. And, you know, like when I talk about here a little bit some of the issues that are going on. And I'll be real, like, I'm not going to try to make a bigger deal out of something that what it is, but there is some issues right now brewing inside of that Raiders locker room with some players and coaches. But one of the things that I'm going to talk about is, what does compete mean? Like, what does compete mean to you? What does compete mean to me? What does compete mean to Pete Carroll? Because if compete means what I thought it meant, then shouldn't Geno Smith have to compete for a job? Like, I don't like when coaches pick favorites, just like I wouldn't like if a parent picked a favorite, right? Like, if the idea is that every player is the same, everybody wears the same jersey, I think that needs to be the mantra, especially in a year that we're trying to build something for the future. But if we're just going to sit up here and go, oh, Pete's guys are going to get special treatment, well, we're right back in the same situation we were with Josh McDaniels and his guys when his guys were getting special treatment. And that locker room ended up being a disaster. Let's go to my man Suavemente. Real one for life, Mitch. Love you, brother. I would love Milroe right now, to be honest. It would be at least fun to watch. Well, I'll say this. Honest question. Do you want the Raiders to have a new quarterback this season? Why for yes and for no? Because coming up here on a program, I am going to say something. I'm going to give you guys a challenge. And I think, unfortunately, I've had some experience in some really bad Raiders years. And, when the season already gets to this point, I go, how can I make Raiders Report more involved? How can I get Raider Nation more involved? So there's going to be a segment, because I would say I received a message from a big-time Raiders fan. You guys probably also saw his tweet. Shout out to Dame Lillard, proud watcher of the show. Dame wants the Raiders to go out and get Shedeur Sanders. The amount of people that told me, Mitch, we should go out and get Shedeur, obviously there's a lot of people behind that. But to me, there's also a lot of other quarterbacks we could consider. Could you consider trading for Russell Wilson? Could you consider going out and trading for Shedeur Sanders, right? Like, there are other options. Could you go out and sign Ryan Tannehill? I don't know what it is. But I have had multiple OGs tell me, Mitch, can we do a Geno Smith replacement video? Can we do, something along those lines? I'm going to give you guys an opportunity, and I'm going to give you guys a deal on today's show that's going to be around that, because I know I'm not the only one sitting here looking at this quarterback play for the Raiders, and I'm just like, what on God's green earth do we have to do to get some good quarterback play? So here's going to be my deal of the day. And, to me, if I'm going to say Monday shows are all about the nation getting questions in, and I mean it, Monday shows are all about y'all. Get those questions in, get them flowing. So the deal that I have made today, if you click on the deal button, you have 3 hours to accomplish this goal. And essentially it is, if we get 50 super chats, $5 or more. It's the only thing that I could set it at. I couldn't set it any lower. $5 or more, right? And that's questions. I want questions. Let's talk about that game yesterday. I want you to vent your frustrations. That's how Monday needs to go, because I know I'm not the only one that's frustrated after that game. If we accomplish that goal, I will start off Monday Night Football tonight with a boo. I've made the joke before. When the Raiders lose, we booze. But I don't know what else to do, because to me, I want to be able to have a good time on this program. I want to be able to sit up here and share nothing but laughs with all of y'all. But talking about a football team that either A, doesn't care, and B, might not be moving in the right direction, it makes you want to go insane. What makes me not want to go insane is honestly having a good time. And I promise myself this, I'm going to have a good time. So if any time you pull up to the Raiders Report, if you're down to clown, if you're down to have a good time, I'm down to have a good time. You know I know is down to have a good time?
Who?
Isaac Hernandez! Bang! I'm over Pete already. How do we go from last week's performance to this? I think what's hard to understand is this is not the only game where we failed in all three aspects. And, maybe it's a combination of the Bears are just a bad football team. That's why, we were kind of able to do some of the good stuff. But even in a game where, you played well in all three phases of the game against Chicago, your quarterback still stunk so damn bad that you lost that game. But look at the Chargers game. That's 3 levels. All 3 levels, you stunk. Commanders, all 3 levels, you stunk. The Bears, you finally played well, but you still didn't find a way to win a game. Bad teams find ways to lose. And then yesterday against Indianapolis, that might have been the cherry on top of just the worst Raiders performances that I have seen all season long. So to me, when teams play as bad as what the Raiders played yesterday in a must-win football game, I mean, like, let's be honest with ourselves. It was the biggest game of the year. And that's the way that y'all responded? Like, that's a team that's given up. That's a team that doesn't believe in themselves. It's a team that doesn't believe in their coaching staff. And when you hear some of the things that are going on already inside of that locker room, like, again, like, I got to be able to sit up here, and if I'm going to be as hard as what I was on Josh McDaniels calling for him to get fired, I know that Pete's not going to get fired. It's why you're not going to hear me say it, because I already know what Mark has said. But at the same time, if you're looking at just what the Pete Carroll and John Spytek regime is, you can make an argument that it's worse than the McDaniels regime, that it's worse than the Antonio Pierce regime. And when you hear some of the things that are being said right now inside of that locker room, like, I can remember, a few years ago when I had a Raiders player tell me some of the shit going on in the McDaniels locker room. I had everybody else tell me, no, it's not true, Mitch. A week later, they ended up firing McDaniels on Halloween at 1 a.m. in the morning my time. Like, I know how bad it sounds right now, and I'm trying to just tell y'all that, again, it's not to the level of what it was with McDaniels. It's not even to the level of what it was with Antonio Pierce in that locker room, but there is already a unbelievable there's already some issues, let's just say that, brewing in the locker room, which probably doesn't surprise anybody. Quite frankly, I could almost say if there's not issues brewing in that locker room right now, that might even be a bigger issue. Let's go to Joan Rodriguez. Throws it up there. Who's gonna throw it down? Hearing Pete Carroll say that he was close to putting in, you mean Kenny Pickett, it's a K, then to say that Geno Smith needed more on the field practice. Are you freaking kidding me? What did you do all offseason? You're losing 40-3 in the third. You should have benched the entire offense and put all rookies in. And I think that this is one of the issues, John, that I'll talk about today because, again, you're not the only one that was sitting there going, what the hell were we doing in May, June, July, August? Like, what were we doing all this time? Because what's funny is Pete's again defending his guy, Geno Smith. But at the same time, when it comes to a question that when he was asked about JPJ, it was absolutely not. Pete Carroll has already identified certain players as his guys. There are already players in that Raiders locker room, I'm telling y'all, that are frustrated that there are Pete guys and then there are everybody else. And right now, Geno Smith is a Pete guy. And I don't expect anything less than that because of the money that they spent, the draft capital that they've already given up to go out and get him. But at the exact same damn time, we are losing 40-3. We're putting players out there that I don't really think have much of a future left on this team. Why not roll out some of those rookies that we're trying to do, that we're trying to build for the future? But, it's funny to me that Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll can stand up there at the podium and they'll say something like, oh, we're not going to switch the offensive line because of how much time we've already put in to the offensive line the entire offseason. But then when it comes to potentially benching a player, well, now we got to treat it like practice in the middle of a game. If we're treating games like practice, and if the words out of Pete Carroll's mouth, which are, during the offseason, those practices and preseason, I don't remember the exact quote, but he said something along the lines of like, oh, like those aren't real reps. It sounds like our guys are getting a lot of not real reps right now, and we just look flat. We look like one of the worst teams in the NFL, and again, like when you see a game, the way that you saw that game yesterday against Indy, it's not just a Geno Smith issue. It's not just an offensive line issue. It is a top-to-bottom issue, and that's what's scary to me because, you were hoping after the Bears game, you're like, all right, we're moving in the right direction. Maybe if we just clean up a few things here with Geno Smith, we're going to be okay. Turns out we got worse. And every single week when you expect the Raiders to show improvements, every single week when you expect these Raiders players and coaches to make a statement, they show up even worse than what you anticipated. And that happens when teams give up. And I don't know if the Raiders are already giving up, but it's week 5 of the NFL season. And me as a Raiders fan, I have no expectations for this team anymore. I have no expectations for Pete Carroll. I have no expectations for Geno Smith. And I say that because there's no way that they have any expectations for themselves. Because if that's what you're getting, if the effort level and what I've seen through this season, 5 games. Again, it's only 5-game sample size. But that New England game, week 1, awesome. Awesome game. Found a way to win. The last 4 games, can't frickin' believe how bad this team has been. Can't believe how bad this team honestly is. So we got 800 people here in the building. If you haven't already, make sure you guys click that like button. I know that I'm not the only one that is a frustrated mother effer, and I can feel it in the chat. I can see it down in the chat. And I get it, guys. I'm just as heated as all y'all. So today's deals, for those of you that do not know, are going to be pretty simple, very straightforward. If you send in a super chat, if you need to get on screen, I hope it's a $5 super chat. Why? You're entered in for a chance to win a signed Raiders jersey, which we will auction off, raffle, at the very end of the year. Also, you're going to be able to get on screen. Every single super chat we get today will get up on screen. Every $10 Venmo, you're going to have a chance to get in our duck race. I don't know what the duck race is at necessarily. Let me look real quick here. It looks like right now it's a $10 Venmo. You'd have the opportunity to go home with $25, I believe. Raymond Sanchez is in. Jason Aguilar is in. Victor Lobos is in. And then my guy Brian Folsom is also in. So, yes, 20 to win right now as it stands. $25, or 10, excuse me, to win 25. If you want 5 jersey raffle tickets, send in a $20 super chat. I got you there. If you want 25 raffle tickets, like Isaac Hernandez got, we're going to count that as a bang. $100. Bottom line is this. Let's have some fun. Let's vent a little bit. And if you guys get the deal of the day, the best deal of the day, it literally, if you look at the very top of your live chat, okay, you're going to click that live chat. There is going to be something that says right now 16/50. If we get 50 super chats and accomplish that goal, I will end up starting out Monday Night Football with a boot. I don't care how hungover I am on Tuesdays. I don't care how hungover I am today, because I'm not going to lie to you. I'm pretty hungover today. It's not going to matter. If the Raiders aren't going to give you 110%, I'm going to try every day in my power to give you guys 110%. Because today, my wife's birthday, and I'm going to be here at work for about 16 hours. Why? Because that's what Commitment to Excellence is about. Commitment to Excellence is about seeing a problem and trying to find a solution to it. Commitment to Excellence is not just saying what the problem is at the podium, telling everybody that you're going to fix it with a bunch of empty words, and then making absolutely positively no corrections or adjustments the following week and expecting a different result. That is, unfortunately, the Commitment to Excellence that we are dealing with right now with the Pete Carroll-led Geno Smith Raiders. Let's now go to, is this another one? Oh, my Lord. Hernandez! Bang! Isaac Hernandez came out guns a-blazing today. Do you think coaches will be fired? What needs to happen for that to happen? I think, again, I was told by a source that talked to the guy that makes, at the end of the day, the decisions. Let's just leave it like that. Pete's not getting fired. Spytek's not getting fired. I don't think Patrick Graham or Chip Kelly are going to get fired. If other coaches, like, that might be the trickle-down effect, and sometimes you see it in the NFL where, you know, a team, like, if instead of firing their head coach, they'll fire a wide receiver coach. They'll fire the play caller. They'll fire something. With the Raiders right now, Chip Kelly, Patrick Graham, John Spytek, Pete Carroll, I'm telling y'all right now, those jobs are safe. They're not going anywhere. If the Raiders wanted to try to make a scapegoat out of somebody, maybe it's Greg Olsen, the quarterback coach, with how bad Geno Smith has been playing. I don't think that it's a Greg Olsen issue. I think it's a Geno Smith issue. And I also think there is a Chip Kelly issue here with his play calling and how vanilla and predictable it is week in and week out, and just the inability to make any proper adjustments and the inability to feel the game right. Because anybody that watched that game yesterday would have stuck with Ashton Genty longer. The problem is, I think Chip Kelly's still calling plays like he plays for the University of Ohio State. And that's a problem, because this might shock you. He's still not calling plays for Ohio State University anymore. But unfortunately, I really don't think that anything's going to change from a coaching standpoint. I don't think anyone's going to get fired. I really don't. But also, we got to be able to give credit to Brennan Carroll. The offensive line has played much better over the past 2 games. Raider J, were the Raiders better off with Telesco and Pierce? We played with more physicality late in the season. What would that draft look like, quarterback first or second, corner, safety? I mean, I think the problem right now with the Raiders draft is we have so many damn holes to fill that it's really hard to be like, oh, let's tank for a quarterback in round 1. Because we need, I think, actually almost 2 cornerbacks. I think we need a free safety. We need more help on both the interior and defensive line. Our linebackers are all old because we decided to bring in a bunch of old linebackers, and none of those guys can cover. And the best linebacker on your team, for whatever reason, didn't even travel with the team. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. And then on the offensive side of the football, you're going to have to find a wide receiver one because Jacoby's not going to come back. And then, you got to be able to find probably a quarterback that can learn underneath Geno. And when you look at the Geno Smith contract, it's hard to move out from, right? You can cut him next offseason, eat $18 million, and maybe that's what the Raiders are going to decide to do. It's essentially the same thing what they did with Gardner Minshew. And now if you trade him, a team could potentially trade for Geno. I just don't see what team would end up doing that because then they'd have to take on $26 million of his contract next season. But I will say that I still have more confidence in Pete Carroll than I do Antonio Pierce, and it's only because I saw Antonio Pierce throughout an entirety of a game, entirety of a season, and was always the worst coach out there on the field. You can't really tell me anything other than that. Plus, seeing all the hatred that AP's been spewing towards the Raiders, I mean this when I say this. I think Antonio Pierce is a hoe, and I'd say it to his face. No problem saying it to his face. Quite frankly, I wish he would let me say it to his face. But at the exact same time, you can look at Telesco, and Telesco was cheap, didn't want to go out and get a quarterback. I don't know what quarterback that he would have got. But at the same time, though, you look at that draft that Telesco put together, and that's actually one of the more decent drafts that the Raiders have had the past few seasons. So I don't know what to think, only because I was told that the Pete Carroll and John Spytek regime was going to do this plan over here. The problem is the plan that I was told that the Raiders were going to do, they aren't doing it at all. Quite frankly, they're almost doing the exact opposite of what I was told. And what I was told was by Spytek, not himself, but by somebody that knows Spytek. And I almost wonder, is Pete Carroll calling all the shots? Because, again, what I was told based on what Spytek wanted, the Raiders have not done. That's just me being honest with you. I don't know if Pete Carroll's calling more of the shots. I don't know what's happening, but this is not the identity of a John Spytek team. I'll tell you that right now. What up, SD Kobe? Geno telling us to have patience is crazy. Yeah, I'm not happy with Geno Smith. Nobody right now can be happy with Geno Smith. And I get, like, Geno, I understand Geno saying patience. But I think at the same time, what else is he supposed to say? Because right now, the only thing that Geno Smith can stand on is patience. Because he can't stand on his play. He can't stand on his word. Because right now, Geno Smith's word means nothing. Because all he does is he sits up there at the podium, says a bunch of words, and guess what? Nothing changes. He goes out there, says that he's going to make some proper adjustments go forward, doesn't make any of the proper adjustments. I mean, Geno right now, I don't know how anybody can defend him. I don't know how anybody wants to see him play, and it sucks because Geno Smith, before this season, was a top 15 quarterback. When you look at the numbers, when you look at the metrics, Geno Smith was a top 15 quarterback by a lot of metrics, quite frankly. And somehow, yet again, the Raiders find a way to get a quarterback who was a good to average to above average quarterback, and now all of a sudden he looks like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. Let's go to the Night Devil. Nothing pissed me off more yesterday than Pete's answer to why he didn't bench Geno. Games are not practice, Pete. Oh, I know. And again, it's just way too much contradiction because Pete earlier was talking about how much of a waste the preseason and practices are, and that there was only 3 games. Remember after the Commanders game, it's only 3 games, and during the practice, during the preseason, it's not like getting real game action. We're still learning. Well, apparently we're still learning, and we're going to keep on learning. The problem is, what are we teaching? Like if I was a student in Pete Carroll's class, I would honestly reconsider taking that class because what is Pete Carroll preaching? What is Pete Carroll teaching? Because from the 4 weeks, again, let's talk about the 4 games that the Raiders had 1 week to prepare. 4 games. The Raiders had 1 game to prepare. Chargers, F. Commanders, F. Bears, give you a C grade. I think, honestly, if you don't have Geno Smith, you win that game. And then you go up against the Colts, and it's an F. If you were a teacher, Pete, and the last time that I checked, you are a professor, what would you give your students if the grades were F, F, C, and an F? You'd probably tell them to study a little bit more. I think right now our quarterback, our head coach, our entire team needs to take a little bit more pride in being Raiders because there's nothing prideful about what I've been watching this season. What up, Lil Watts? What's it going to take for changes to happen? I don't know what the changes are going to take. I think right now, and a lot of Raiders fans are concerned because Pete's being stubborn. Chip Kelly's comments sound very stubborn. Geno Smith right now sounds a little bit stubborn, and it sounds like we got a bunch of old guys that want you off their lawn because they know more than you. Even if you could tell them something that would help them out, they don't care. They don't want the help from other people. They care more about being right. They care more about them being right instead of what's doing best for the Raiders. Let's go to Ant Ballin. What up, man? Yeah, you and me both, brother. You and me both. You know, it's tough. But, again, like to me, what are the problems of this team? They're all over the place. We got to be able to find a solution. Earlier in the offseason when I was like, you still got to have faith, it's because it was like, it's just an offensive line problem. It's just a Geno Smith problem. If we correct those issues, we're going to be moving in the right direction. There's no direction that this team is moving in. None, quite frankly. Blaine Craig, I'm disgusted in this team right now. It's embarrassing to see our team lay an egg like that. It was a pathetic performance. It was a pathetic performance, and it's embarrassing to see your team lay an egg like that because it was the most important game of the season. You were 1-3. 1-3. Got to get back on your winning ways. Got to get on the winning track. And the most important game of the season, that was the effort and that was the performance. I think that's the concerning part for a lot of fans like myself here where you're going, I can't believe how bad that game was yesterday. And that game told me a lot, that this team, these players, these coaches, either they don't believe in themselves or they don't have a good eye for talent because every single Raider fan watching this show right now is picking at, our cornerbacks weren't talented enough. Our safety room's not good enough. Our linebackers can't cover. We're not strong enough in the trenches. We need to be able to find more talent on the offensive side, whatever it is, right? Like, there's so many issues with this team right now. What up, Cindy? Time to go back to Madden Team 26. Yeah, I wish we could go back to just playing Madden. I actually wish, and it's sad to say, I wish I could just hit fast forward and get this season over with. And I hate saying it because I love regular season football. I was so excited for this year because I did really, really in my heart of hearts think that this season was going to be different, but yet we're right back here again, and we have no answers for it. Do we have any news on Aiden O'Connell? No, Aiden was expected to be out 6 to 8 weeks with that injury when he sustained it. If I had to guess, they're probably going to hold out Aiden until, the bye week when he ends up coming back then just to fully rest him. But here's the thing, and Aiden's not going to be the starting quarterback. Like, when the Raiders went out and they traded for Kenny Pickett, that should have been the announcement that I think a lot of AOC truthers got to hear where, AOC's not the quarterback too. It's Kenny Pickett. And if Geno gets benched, it's going to be Kenny Pickett time. It's not going to be Aiden O'Connell time. And I think, I don't even know how bad it would have to get for AOC to go in that game. But I'm not kidding when I say this. I think the only way Aiden O'Connell plays any football this season for the Raiders is if Geno Smith, Kenny Pickett, one guy's got to get benched, the other guy's got to get hurt. I think that's honestly the only way you're going to see AOC because you also got to remember how bad AOC was during the preseason. He was much worse, much, much worse than Geno Smith. Javi, bring back Derek Carr, knows how to call protection, knows the AFC West. Carr never had a defense ever. Only had a wide receiver since 2016, and he should have won MVP that year. I mean, I think if he doesn't get hurt, he probably does win MVP that season. Let's also just say this. Let's just say it like this. Derek Carr also had a phenomenal offensive line. That offensive line that we have now is nowhere near as good as Derek Carr. The problem, though, with DC is, are you going to pay Derek Carr $50 million per year? Like, I understand that there's frustration with a 1-4 football team, but Derek Carr is not going to save this football team this season. He's not, right? Like, if Derek Carr's the quarterback of this team, we're probably 2-3. Maybe we're 3-2, which I know that changes a lot of things. But Derek, with what you'd have to give up in trade capital, because you have to make a trade for the Saints, then what you'd have to pay him, because he's still under contract with New Orleans. You have to take on that deal. It's about $50 million this season. Doesn't help you. And a season that's like this, honestly, what the Raiders need to do, the exact opposite of what the Raiders need to do is what you're asking here for Derek Carr. What the Raiders need to actually do is like truly do a rebuild where it's get your rookies in the game more. Let some of younger players start a little bit more. And then, plan for that future a little bit where you're not paying, because the Raiders' biggest problem at quarterback has been you've brought in these veterans. They don't play as good as what you think they're going to play, and then you have to move on from him. A new scheme's got to come in, and then you're paying all that dead money to those guys. Like, you're still paying Jimmy Garoppolo. You're still paying Gardner Minshew. You're still going to be paying Geno Smith. And, again, like, DC is a great human being and all, but DC is the definition of average. And believe me, I love average quarterback play right now, but this doesn't make any sense for the Raiders. As much as I'll honestly say, I do think the Raiders would be better with Derek Carr. I do, but it doesn't make any sense for this team right now. What up, Suave? What percentage of this team will this coaching staff have next year, since you say Pete will not be fired? I think it's a really hard statement to make, only because we saw this past year how much turnover a team can have. And what's frustrating, and I hope what the Raiders do, is they look themselves in the mirror and go, I'm not as smart, and I'm not, like, to me, I don't like to use the word, like, God complex, but I think Pete Carroll had a little bit of the God complex, like you saw with Josh McDaniels this offseason, thinking, I don't need to add talent to this team. I'm good enough as a head coach that whatever I do, whatever I say is going to be good enough to get it going. But, like, you look at what Pete Carroll is supposed to be able to bring to the table. Pete's supposed to be able to bring an identity. We're failing on that regime. Pete was supposed to be able to find a quarterback. He's failing on that. Pete's supposed to be a cornerback whisperer. We're failing in that regard. I actually don't know a single thing that I would say Pete Carroll is doing a good job in. If somebody could tell me, please, like, I wish I could sit up here and say, Pete's doing a good job here. I actually can't think of a single thing that I think Pete Carroll's doing well. What up, O'Neal? Still having secondary and O-line issues, plus a lot of injuries combined with play calls is killing me. Can the nation catch a break? Again, like, we have a bad roster. Like, let's be honest with ourselves. This Raiders roster is not good. We were hoping that the coaching staff that we put together was going to be able to help lift up this Raiders roster. Somehow, the roster is getting worse and worse from what it seems week to week, and that's a major issue because, when you compare on paper, the Raiders defense last year compared to the Raiders defense this season on paper, the team last season is light years better than this season. And then you look at the paper on offense, I will admit that I thought that this offense was going to be much better, but what we have now is a quarterback issue. So we just got a lot of different holes on this team, and we had opportunities to fill those holes. We had opportunities this offseason to add talent. But unfortunately, instead of adding talent, we added Pete Carroll guys. We added, John Spytek guys. And we're more concerned about relationships, and we're more concerned about doing right by players than doing right by the Las Vegas Raiders, which is frustrating. What up, Truth? Who's worse, Jets or Raiders? And do we regret not getting Shador? I know this probably won't happen, but do you think Cam Miller could see the field this season at this point, or would we draft a quarterback? No, I don't think there's any chance in hell that Cam Miller's going to see the field. Again, he's on the practice squad for a reason. Do I regret not getting Shador? From a football standpoint, no, not at all, because, again, I don't think Shador is very good. Do I regret it from a Raiders report standpoint at this point? Yeah. If you would have told me at the beginning of the season the Raiders are going to be 1-4, would you rather have Geno Smith or Shador Sanders? I would say Shador Sanders. Why? Because Shador's going to get eyeballs. Shador's going to bring in money. Shador's going to help this show grow, even if the Raiders are losing. The number one thing, I'm not kidding you when I say this, the number one thing I would love right now for the Raiders to trade for Shador Sanders. I'm not saying it's going to help the team. I don't think it helps the team at all, quite frankly. That is me being very, very selfish and me just saying if the Raiders traded for Shador Sanders, it would help out Raiders Report, it would help out Mitchell Renz, it would help out Chat Sports. I don't think it would help out the Raiders. If anything, I think it would turn a locker room issue that this team is already having into a much, much larger locker room issue. Let's go to Flight Crafted. Maxx Crosby. I'm just here so I don't get fined interviews. Say everything about the locker room. We're going to talk about Maxx here a little bit. You know, no comment. I watched Max's podcast. I'm sure a lot of you guys do too. You could hear how frustrated he was last week. You could hear how frustrated Maxx was. And I don't know what it's going to sound like this week. I have not talked to Maxx Crosby. I have not talked to anybody from Max's team. I'll be honest. I probably won't talk to anybody from Maxx Crosby's team this entire week because I'd be shocked if Maxx talks to anybody, if I'm being honest with you. But what Maxx needs to do, and it's why I've been a little bit critical of Maxx today and yesterday, it's because Maxx is the difference maker on that team. Maxx is the face of the franchise. Maxx is the true captain. I don't give a shit when anybody says, I get A.J. Cole's got a C on his chest. I get Geno Smith's got a C on his chest. But there's 3 captains on that team. Geno Smith, A.J. Cole, Maxx Crosby. Does anybody think that Maxx Crosby's not the loudest voice in that locker room? I'll be honest. I think Maxx Crosby's got a louder voice than Pete Carroll in that locker room. And if I'm Maxx, I'm challenging some guys. Like, I don't want no comment from a guy getting paid $35 million. I don't want a no comment from a guy that we front-loaded his contract to ensure that he would get extra money this year to make it easier for the Raiders to trade him if they are not winning football games. The Raiders have done right by Maxx Crosby from a contract standpoint. I get that they haven't done right by him from a wins and losses standpoint, but Maxx also signs the deal. Maxx also signed the contract. He knew what he was signing up for. He knew the risk. And when you're going to be a member of the Las Vegas Raiders, you're going to be a member of the Raiders. There's a risk in losing. It's why you're getting paid the amount of money that you're getting paid. So when our leader shows defeat, when our captain shows like, I am just going to give up, and I'm not saying Maxx is going to give up. He's never going to give up. And I know Maxx is never going to give up. But when your leader looks defeated, I think it speaks volumes of how bad that locker room is right now. What's up, Soup Daddy? What pays out more than the Raiders' offense and defense? The Allegiant Stadium slot machines. I don't actually know if that's true. I mean, are you guys playing slots when you go to Allegiant Stadium? Because I have heard the best places to play slots in Las Vegas at the airport. I've heard from multiple people that the best places to play slots in Vegas are at the airport. Why? Because they get you to come back. If you win before you leave, then you're feeling good. Make a little bit of money. That'll make you want to come back. That's what I've heard. Best place to play at the airport. Campbell. Yeah, the Raiders' offense hasn't been paying much. I'll tell you that. They haven't been paying much in the red zone. Bones, this is the fastest we've thrown the white flag for the season. I'm tired of it. And I think that's the other part that Pete Carroll and Geno Smith don't understand. You know, Geno's talking about patience. Pete Carroll's been talking a lot about patience. And, you know, even me, like, I'm a new Raiders fan, right? I'm not afraid to admit. I mean, I've been a fan of this team now since 2019, since the first time that I went out to Oakland and met so many Raiders fans. But, you know, my patience is running thin. Now, imagine talking to Raiders fans that are like, bro, we've been losing. It's been like this for 24-plus years, right? Like, there are people who got kids in their 20s that have never seen a winning season. Not a winning, but have never seen a playoff win, you know? Like, that's embarrassing. And it starts at the top. I want to believe in Mark Davis because I know Mark wants to win, and I know Mark is spending money to win. But, Mark, I'm not kidding you when I say this. You got to start hiring people that know your team well, that know your organization well. And I mean this. Mark, my DMs are open. I honestly think that I would help the Raiders win football games because I honestly do think that I know this team inside and out. I don't want to be a GM. I don't want to be your head coach. It's not how I would do a good job. But if I was Mark Davis, I would be reaching for guys that have the information and knowledge like I do. I'd be reaching for guys that can figure out a way to make this football team better because clearly what you're doing is not working, and it hasn't worked for a really long flipping time. And if you need my resume, I'll send you a bunch of Raiders videos that'll prove that if you would have done what we've been asking you to do, we'd be in such a better situation. And I think that's the other frustration part, where Raider fans honestly think that we know more, that we know this team better, and I think that it's been proven over the past 5 to 6 years that Raider Nation does honestly, truly know its players better. I'm not saying that you can coach up guys' X's and O's. I can't coach the way that a lot of these NFL coaches can. But if a guy like Pete Carroll and a guy like Chip Kelly, a guy like Patrick Graham, John Spytek, if they were to sit down at a table with me and they'd be like, what do you think of this player? What do you think of that player? How would you use them? There are so many players on that roster that I'm like, why are we using them like this? It just doesn't make any sense. And then when you hear Pete Carroll saying, oh, we're going to treat games like practice, the practice made perfect. What I've seen is far from perfect. Henny, bench Geno, trade for Mariota, Chip will be happy. Commanders wouldn't trade you for, what would you give up? If I was Washington right now, I'd ask for a second-round pick for Mariota. And that's a crazy statement. Why? Jaden Daniels been battling some injuries this season. I'm not giving up a second-round pick for Marcus Mariota. I wouldn't give up a third-round pick for Marcus Mariota. Again, at this point, with how bad the Raiders are, trying to trade for another bridge gap quarterback, trying to trade for another journeyman, it doesn't make any sense. What the Raiders, God honestly need to do is they need to do the full rebuild the right way, where you got to draft a rookie quarterback, you let the young team learn, you let the young team play, and you continuously let them play. What's frustrating about the Raiders is we have all these young players, and yet a bunch of old veterans are getting more snaps over a young team that's supposed to be learning and getting better. We're just the thought and the planning right now by the Raiders, it's all sorts of out of whack. What's up, Blaine Dufresne? Looking fresh as hell today. Mitch, love the channel and what you do. Been a subscriber since 2017. Who is more to blame for the past 10-plus years of mediocrity, Mark Davis or the hires? Honestly, it's probably Mark. And the only reason why it's Mark is because Mark is the only same factor, right? And I know Mark wants to win. And I know Mark is not afraid to spend some money to win. But I also do think it's not hiring the right people. And when Mark listens to certain people in his ear, he does. He just listens to certain people. And right now, Tom Brady, I would say, is the loudest person in his ear. And I'm not saying that Tom Brady isn't a good guy to have on our side. I do think Tom Brady is a good guy to have on our side. But Tom Brady is also a very busy individual who is, trying to keep up with his own current job. He's trying to, keep up to date with his own family life. Like, I think Mark needs somebody that is dedicated to the Raiders and dedicated to the Raiders only. And we haven't had that. And when we keep bringing in new regimes, firing new regimes. So then it's players from all these different regimes on one team that have all these different skill sets. It's a melting pot of a bunch of chaos. And that's what it looks like every single Sunday, a melting pot of flipping chaos. Sir Chai, Stephon Diggs got that. I don't know what that means. Oh, got that whop. And I'll say this, Cardi B, you're crazy for dating Stephon Diggs. I'll tell you that. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that interview where it's like they ask all the players on the Bills, like, who's the last player you would ever let date your daughter or sister? And, like, every single player. Like, it wasn't multiple choice. It was like every guy was like, yeah, Diggs. Doesn't surprise me. Carlos, I will say this. I might be delusional for saying this, but I remember the Chiefs went 1-5 before going on a 10-game win streak. I doubt it will happen, but I guess I will always have hope for my team. And here's the thing, Carlos. Like, I'm probably going to have hope against the Titans, right? If we're able to beat the Titans, you get to 2-4. If you're able to beat the Chiefs, you get to 3-4. You're going into your bye. There's some momentum there. The problem is the Raiders haven't shown us anything this year that they are getting better, that they are trending in the right direction. If anything, they're showing us the exact opposite. And I mean, if the Raiders are 3-4 going into that bye, you're going to hear a lot different version of Mitchell Renz. You're going to hear a lot different, version of the Raiders report. You're going to hear a much different lingo than what I'm putting out there in the universe right now. But at the same time, I am always an honest individual, and I'm always going to tell y'all what I feel. And right now, I feel hopeless. As a Raiders fan, I feel hopeless because I don't know what the answers are. There's so many answers. There's so many questions that need answers, and we just don't have anybody that can teach them. We don't have anybody that can answer them, I think. I don't know. With how bad this team is playing, it's hard to wrap my mind around how bad this team is playing. I've been wrong on a lot of takes. Obviously, I've been right on a lot of takes. This is the most wrong I've ever been about a Raiders team, and I don't even think it's close. Suave, Raiders got me in an emo song phase like, where are you? Where are you? How about what's like your favorite?
I'm so sorry.
What's your favorite emo song?
Probably that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's perfect. Where are you?
Dude,
And I'm so sorry.
I'll tell you this right now. This makes me think like I'm gonna have to do a show. If the Raiders lose to the Titans, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but we're gonna go full emo phase. I think I get some mascara. I'll straighten my hair. We'll color it black. Let's just go full emo if the Raiders lose to the Titans.
You just do the entire show staring at the wall.
Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report.
You can't even give them your focus.
Oh, no. See, I feel like I'd have to give Raider Nation my focus, but
let's talk more about the Raiders.
I'll say this right now. There could be a few Raiders players and coaches that could walk up to me right now, and I don't know if I'd shake their hand. I'm like, maybe that's a petty thing to say, but to me, a handshake is something that's earned. And I know I don't care what your title is for the Las Vegas Raiders. If I don't respect you, I'm not going to shake your hand. And I wouldn't even blame you not respecting me with some of the things that I've been saying about some of these players and coaches. Like I don't think Antonio Pierce would shake my hand. I wouldn't want to shake Antonio Pierce's hand. We paid for Geno. We got Eugene. Yeah, I can't even believe what we got right now in Geno Smith, because the Geno Smith that I saw on tape the last 3 years, it's a completely different quarterback, and it's actually hard to wrap your mind around how different of a quarterback Geno Smith is. What up, the Chance? Mitch, I don't mince words. I believe nothing will change until Mark Davis is gone. He has not given a shit about the Raiders since he took ownership of this team. The move to L.A. was all for money. I mean, the move to Las Vegas was for money. No doubt about it. I think, though, there was also some levels of frustration from California. Now, again, I'm not going to get into the political side of it. I'm not going to get into, all the extracurriculars. But I'm telling you this, from the horse's mouth, from Mark Davis. Mark did not tell me this, but Mark did tell somebody that I know very well this. And Mark moved to Las Vegas because Oakland and California kept telling him no. And he was sick and tired of hearing no. Vegas said, come here. We're going to tell you, we're going to say yes to everything that you want to do. And Mark Davis turned a $500 million company into now a $6 to $7 billion company, and it's only going up and up. If Raiders fans want to make a statement, if Raiders fans want to get through to Mark Davis, stop going to the games. I'm not, it's actually the only way that you're going to ever prove to Mark that you want him to step down. Because if the Raiders are going to keep making money, that means Mark Davis is going to keep making money. But the moment that you prove that the Raiders aren't a growing business, then Mark, since he's a business owner, is going to look at it from that standpoint. And if the Raiders fans go, hey, we're not going to go to games anymore, I'm not going to do X, Y, Z until Mark Davis is gone, then that will start to impact his wallet. It will. It's not going to be something that we can do overnight. It's not going to be something that we can do today, but I mean this. You couldn't pay me money to physically go to a Raiders game. I think that the reason why the Raiders Report is the most watched show every single game day is because people are like, why would I go spend money, probably over $1,000, to just go watch that game? Like, imagine you're a family, a Raiders family, that went to go watch that game in Indianapolis. You probably got flights. You probably got a hotel. You bought the tickets. You bought foods. You bought drinks. Well, now you're out $2,000, and now you're going to be tired all week because you had to do that during the weekend. To me, it doesn't make any sense. I think the only way Raider Nation is ever going to get Mark Davis to sell the team is to literally stop going to games. I don't know what else it's going to take, but if you want Mark Davis to sell the team, stop going to games. Stop going to games. I wouldn't go to a game. I won't. I'll be here. I'll be live. No doubt about it, but I would never go to a game right now. I don't know if anyone caught this during the telecast, but it was said that JPJ has played 1,000 snaps without giving up a sack. Why wouldn't you want that guy playing center? Because the Raiders care more about their guys being right than what's doing best for the team. You even saw it a little bit yesterday. Jordan Meredith missed multiple blocks. Jordan Meredith and Geno Smith were kind of getting after each other because, there was some miscommunication there. And, again, to me, I don't think that Jordan Meredith is the biggest problem, but a big problem right now is you're not playing your best offensive lineman where he should play. And he's done a good job at guard, and he showed you that he can be guard. But JPJ on tape has clearly shown you that it's without a doubt he's your best interior offensive lineman on this team, and we know that. You know that. Everybody watching this show knows that JPJ is the best interior offensive lineman on this team. But did anybody catch what Chip Kelly said last week? He said something along the lines of, Jackson Powers Johnson's head's so big right now. He was like, I don't know why, he didn't say, I don't know why Raiders fans love him as much as he does, much as they do. But Chip Kelly kind of threw JPJ under the bus a little bit last week. And some of you know what I'm talking about. Again, I don't remember the exact quote, but to me, there are so many examples, and we'll talk about some more here. So many examples of there are guys that this coaching staff likes, and there are guys that this coaching staff doesn't like. And right now, the Las Vegas Raiders are being run like a high school football team where it's more important that mommy and daddy's kids go out and play. It's more important that daddy, Pete Carroll, son, Brennan Carroll, gets his way instead of doing what's best. Because, again, anybody with an ounce of football IQ says JPJ or Jordan Meredith at center. It's a no-brainer. Somebody just needs to tell our coaching staff. What's up, Gilbert? I hate when I see my 49ers friends clown on the Raiders. I mean, at this point, it shouldn't even faze you. Today I walked into work, and everybody at Chat Sports, they don't even clown me. They say I'm sorry. And I think that people know, how devastated I am, how heartbroken I am about the Raiders being bad. But, at some points, I almost wish people would clown me. Give me something to laugh about. Give me something to giggle about, because when I know people are saying sorry, my good friends feel bad for me because my football team's bad, I think that just goes to show how bad the Raiders are, right? You're really good friends when you can kind of bust on each other's chops, kind of give each other a good elbow here and there. But at what point does it become not fun, right? One of my buddies growing up, always a little bit, had a weight problem, but he was one of the biggest guys that I knew. I was one of the shortest guys in my high school. He used to always rip on me for being short. I used to always rip on him for being a chunky dude. We did that, though, because we were really great friends. I had enough confidence to know that, yeah, I'm a short guy, but I'm a short king. Let's live it up. He also knew that he was a big dude, but he was also one of the best, funniest guys, one of the best athletes at our high school. But, if it got to a point where he got up to, 600 pounds, I wouldn't make fun of his weight, because at that point you're like, bro, I'm trying to help you out right now. You got to get this to go, right? If I was a midget, I don't think people would make fun of my height, because at that point you're like, well, damn, that's kind of lame. Right now, the Raiders are a 600-pound midget. And you're like, I don't know if I should make fun of them, because I got friends that are like, Mitch, I'm sorry for how bad the Raiders are. That's how bad it is right now. I don't know if that analogy makes sense, but it's the first one that I thought of, and that's what you're going to get here on the Raiders Report. You're going to get exactly what's on my mind. Who is leading this team? Nobody. And I'm not talking coaches. I'm talking players. Is this the right type of leadership? We need a Brady type at this point. This is why I said that Maxx Crosby needs to speak up. If Geno Smith is going to walk around and pout like a little baby back bitch, and if Geno doesn't have the balls to say what needs to be said, well, then we need to be able to find somebody that has the balls to be able to do it. We need somebody else then that can wear the C on their chest, because Geno's sitting up there at the podium saying, oh, we need all 11 guys. And it's a lot of words. No, there's no meaning to any of the words that are coming out of their mouths. And I just think at the end of the day, we need somebody that can prove that they are the leader of this team, which is where, in my opinion, it needs to be Maxx Crosby. Because the only player that I think the moment he walks in, the moment he speaks, everybody listens to him and everybody respects him. It's 98. And if Max wants to wear that C on his chest, if he wants to be considered one of the best players in the NFL, the best players in the NFL also have that ability to say the tough things that not other people can say. It's not only just about going out there and filling up a stat sheet. Yes, wins and losses are important. It's hard to do that when you're a defensive end, but when you are made at the time the highest non-paid quarterback in the National Football League, at the time the highest paid defensive player in the NFL, your job is to also be that leader. And I think it's a Maxx Crosby job. He needs to stand up. He needs to show those leadership traits. I'm not saying it's going to change anything, but the answer to your question, who needs to be the leader, it's 98. And I don't know how, I don't think it can be anybody else besides 98. What up, Benjamin? Why do you think Geno Smith is in this funk? Geno making 40+ million. His contract is more than 66 million after this year. How do you get Pro Bowl Geno? So I do want to say that it's not nearly as much as what you are saying. Now, the full contract in all of its details, yes, it was, I believe, $106 million. So it was a 2-year, $75 million contract. 66.5 of that is guaranteed. So the way that the Raiders can get out of it, again, this year you're stuck with him. Next season, though, he's got a cap hit of $26.5 million, which in all honesty is not that bad of a cap hit for a quarterback. I mean, the way he's playing now, it's a bad cap hit. You'll be able to get out of his contract, though, in 2027, $0 million guaranteed. If the Raiders wanted to cut Geno, they would save $18.5 million next season. Now, if you trade him, if you cut him post June 1st, doesn't matter. If you trade him, a team will take on the entirety of his contract. That's not going to happen. I think the funk right now, though, is it's a Geno Smith confidence issue. He clearly is not confident in himself because he's clearly not seeing the field well. I also think that there is a Chip Kelly issue. I think Geno and Chip right now are some sorts are clashing. I think Chip Kelly is clashing with multiple other coaches, multiple other players on that team, and I can confirm that. I also think that, you got your top receiver in Brock Bowers. He's injured. Michael Mayer's been banged up. There's been trying to find that integrity of what you are exactly on the offense. New wide receivers. There's just a lot of new. And right now I think there's just too much new for Geno Smith to be able to handle. On top of that, you got players and coaches that aren't getting along. Let's go to Rondo. I don't know what we expected, but we don't have a good roster. I agree. And I think to your point then, Rondo, then you should go out and try to fill those holes. Go out and sign guys in free agency. Go out and add potential players in the draft, because right now what we have is a bad roster, but we could have made those proper adjustments. If the idea was, no, let's not go out and add more talent because we're going to let our young guys play, that makes sense. Problem is the young guys aren't playing. We're playing old guys instead of playing young players, and those old players are really struggling in ways that we told you they were going to struggle. Luckily, they're set up this team to get better in years ahead. I don't see how you say that, though. Like, with all due respect, how does any Raider fan say, luckily, they set up this team to get better in years ahead? How do you say that? I mean it. How do you say it? Because look at the draft. It's been a disaster. Jack Besh hasn't made any impact. Darian Porter's been terrible. Caleb Rogers been healthy and active. Charles Grant can't get on the field. And I'm not saying that I expected those guys to get on the field, but for a 1-4 football team, and clearly as bad as what we are, if we're going to be in a rebuild, don't you want those younger players to get more reps, to get more snaps, to get more acclimated to the NFL? Because I look at a team that had top 3 money and salary cap space. I look at a team that had 11 total draft picks, and we're in this situation, and we're looking at the future going, I don't know who the hell it's going to be. The Ashton Genty pick looks like it's a good pick. Obviously, time's going to tell, but like Tonka Hemingway, J.J. Pegues, Lindenberg. Malot's not even on the team anymore. Cam Miller's on the practice squad. I am so concerned because I think that the Raiders aren't heading in the right direction. I don't know how you think that they are heading in the right direction. They'll have this with all the 1- and 2-year deals made. Think they wanted to see what they have this year. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of 1- to 2-year deals being made. And, you look at the Eric Stokes contract, you look at the, Devin White contract, the Germaine Pratt contract, the Jamal Adams contract, Eric Stokes. I don't know if I already said that one, but there's a lot of, 1-year prove-it deals. Alex Kappa. But at the same time, the players that the Raiders have brought in haven't done a good job. Kai Blue Kelly is still playing over Darian Porter. Kai Blue Kelly's been arguably the worst cornerback in the National Football League. He's given up by far the most yards. I am concerned because I was hoping that the team would be better this season, but then also show me hope that we're trending in the right direction. We are worse this year than I thought, and we're not showing any progression like we're trending in the right direction. Let's go to Patriot, the X's. All 3 quarterbacks have NFL experience, and they all suck ass. Let's give Cam Miller a shot. Can't get any worse. I mean, here's the thing. I think it would get much worse with Cam Miller. Again, Cam, I don't want to just throw Cam to the Wolves because I think he needs to learn. He needs to materialize. It's not fair throwing Cam Miller to the Wolves, but I promise you it would be worse. If you're going to bench Geno, it's going to be Kenny Pickett time. Just so we're clear. Yep. Michael, bet we miss Carr right now. At least he kept us in games. I miss having a mediocre quarterback. I do. I miss having a mediocre quarterback. Motorcycle Prophet, thanks for doing what you're doing. I'm in an abusive relationship with the Raiders, but love the nation. And I think that's kind of the best way. I think that's kind of the best way to explain what the Raiders are. They are a very unhealthy relationship. It's the most unhealthy relationship that I am in right now. Alexis, what's up? What is up? What is up? Born a Raider fan, it's annoying how the Donkeys and Chargers turned it around. I will say this. I'll say this. The Chargers look a little bit more fraudulent. The Broncos are going in the right direction, but the Broncos and Chargers built their team the smart way. Now, the Chargers have lost 2 offensive linemen, which have really hurt that team. Wow. Breaking news. The Raiders are releasing Germaine Pratt. So that was going to be one of the things that I talked about today, and it is now official. The Raiders just released Germaine Pratt. You can, one of the videos that I was going to talk about, let me just make a quick little video here. Oh, sorry, y'all. Breaking news. We got some breaking news. The Las Vegas Raiders are moving on from Germaine Pratt. The team literally just announced that they are releasing him, and yesterday, Pratt could have came to the game. The Raiders made a decision to not bring him to Indianapolis. He was a healthy scratch. One of the things that I'll talk about live on the Raiders Report are, I was told by a source yesterday that there is some friction between some players and coaches inside of that locker room, and anybody that's watching the Raiders Report live right now has known how much I've been talking about some of these issues with Germaine Pratt, but that's not the only player that's got issues. I promise you that. But right now, the breaking news is the Raiders are moving on from Germaine Pratt. Arguably, he's been their best linebacker this entire season. He's been better than Devin White. It probably means now some extra opportunities for Jamal Adams and some extra opportunities for a young linebacker in Tommy Eichenberg. But this season just keeps on getting worse and worse, but at least Pete Carroll is making guys compete, right? All right, y'all. Breaking news there. Germaine Pratt has been released by the Las Vegas Raiders in a, honestly, very, very shocking fashion. I knew that there were some issues. And, again, you go back, you watch the very, very beginning of the show here where I was talking about, there were some issues. I just got to adjust live. Hang on. Germaine Pratt released after loss to Colts. Oh, man. I mean, releasing your best linebacker, man. Releasing your best linebacker is a choice, I'll tell you that. Raiders News Live. Sorry, y'all. I'm trying to do my best here. I'm trying. I mean, what a crazy. I mean, this is just proof, though, that it's getting bad. It's getting bad. Again, they just released their top linebacker, and Germaine Pratt. It begins with a G. Let me know. No, you're okay. You're okay. Let me know your one-word reaction to the Raiders releasing Germaine Pratt. And I think what we're going to do now is let's just get into this next segment on the Raiders Report, because my next segment, everything's already built. Everything's already ready to go. I was told by a source yesterday that there were some frictions that are brewing right now inside of that locker room. And, now I think with the news of Germaine Pratt being released by the Raiders, again, arguably your best linebacker, My one-word reaction is friction, and I'm going to keep on sticking with that word. I think the way that we do it now is, you know how I had Germaine Pratt as the fourth option? We just got to put him up now at first and move everything else down. That's how that's got to go. It is getting ugly, and it's unfortunately getting really, really, really ugly here for the Raiders. So I see predictable for Mr. Bakes a lot. Joshua Garcia says it's getting ugly. Pete Carroll said we just thought it was time to go in a different direction. You know, Germaine Pratt also posted a picture this morning on social media, and it was like him counting money. Like, not him personally counting money. It was something else. Shit show from Zalesbo. Ego from Michael. Lame from Joshua Garcia. Yeah, I mean, it's a shit show, dude. It's a freaking shit show. WTF down there from Kings A. If you guys are just now turning in, it is confirmed. Germaine Pratt has been cut, has been released by the Las Vegas Raiders. Him and Pete Carroll, him and some other coaches, based on some of the sources that I've been talking to, got into it a little bit. It's why he did not make the trip to Indianapolis this past game, and there's been some issues. I think I'm going to get into some other issues that are brewing right now around the Las Vegas Raiders. And again, I do this show because when I get information, I want to share it with all y'all. And I got some information that really indicated to me that there are some issues that are brewing right now with the Raiders, with the locker room. And I think that this just confirms it, that there are some issues brewing right now inside of that locker room. Yeah. It's pretty damn brutal though, man. It's pretty damn brutal right now. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, make sure that you do so, because again, if you are now just learning about the issues with Germaine Pratt and the Raiders, and if you are now just learning that there are some locker room issues with the Raiders and coaches, I think that you need to hit that subscribe button. We were talking about this probably, a good hour and a half ago, that Germaine Pratt's got some issues, that there are some issues right now brewing inside of that locker room. But man, oh man, it's just always bad, it seems like. It just seems like it's always bad. It seems like we can never get it going in the right direction. And right when you think you're going to be able to figure it out after a nice Week 1 win against the New England Patriots, you decide to just put shit together for over and over and over and over. Pete Carroll, when asked if there was going to be any more personnel changes, Pete Carroll said no. No more personnel changes for Pete Carroll. Why? Because if you're not a Pete Carroll guy, he doesn't give a shit. Yep, I know. It's pretty big breaking news. Germaine Pratt has been released by the Las Vegas Raiders. So, coming up here, yep, that looks perfect. Coming up here on today's program, I didn't know that Germaine Pratt was going to get released. Let me be very clear on that. I did know that there were issues with Pratt, with the Raiders, and I also knew that there were some issues inside of the Raiders locker room with some coaches, which is why one of the segments that I was going to do today was around some issues brewing. Because the information just came out, we're good to go, huh? I would say if we could get a highlight cut for this, that'd be good. Probably, yeah. I mean, the copy's technically already done because I knew that this was going to happen. All right, sounds good. Let me just change the title then. Again, I everything's done because I knew that this was going to happen. Hang on. Breaking news. Okay. You could tell Chugs it's good. Yep. Desert Raider. Am I sure? Yes. I am positive the Raiders have released Germaine Pratt. Positive. It was just, the statement was just made. Again, I did not know Germaine Pratt was going to get released today, but I did know that there were some major issues going on with Germaine Pratt. So I actually already have an entire show around this, so we're just going to get into it. This was going to be the segment that I talked about. If you look at the very beginning of the show, when I said things that are going to be coming up on today's program, you can rewind, you can go back, you can look. I said there's some major issues brewing right now inside that Raiders locker room with some coaches, and this was kind of one of the top, things that we're going to talk about on today's program. But if you are now just joining us, we have over 1,000 people here in the building. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because I knew that there were some issues brewing with Germaine Pratt. And the Raiders are releasing Germaine Pratt, saying goodbye to a veteran that they signed this offseason. Pratt did not travel with the team to Indy for non-injury reasons. So the Raiders, Pete Carroll basically said that they made a decision to go in a different direction. That's why Pratt was not invited to go to Indianapolis. I was told by a source that there are some friction between some players and some coaches. We're going to kind of get into that in a little bit more of a deep dive here on today's program. So, yeah, I think that's totally fine. You ready to rock? Ready to rock? Coming up here. Oh, let's talk about the breaking news around. Oh, wait. Let me share this real quick on my socials, and then I'll get into the breaking news around Germaine Pratt. How about this? While we wait here, who on the Raiders in their linebacker room needs to step up now? Who in the Raiders linebacker room needs to step up right now? Let me know down below. Sorry, I'm trying to do multiple birds here. Breaking news. If you could talk to them, that'd be great.
I think I think Jamal Adams. It's clear that Jamal Adams is going to be the next guy up, and what do you know? It's a Pete Carroll guy. It's clear. He's just playing his favorites, and I'm sure. I mean, to be fair, Jamal Adams is good. He's been playing well.
He's done a good job. He's done a much better job.
But if anyone's going to step up, that's who it's going to be, and it's classic that it's
I look at
a Pete Carroll guy.
I look at the Raiders situation, and I honestly would love to know what Germaine Pratt said or did, because I think this is just, again, another example of Pete and their team. They're going to choose favorites. They're going to pick the guys that they like. They're going to pick guys that, they don't believe in, and that's kind of the situation that we are in right now. But I can't even begin to wrap my mind around how bad the Raiders look right now and how, quite frankly, dysfunctional the Raiders have been this season. And I only bring that up because when you see the amount of dumb shit the Raiders have done this season, I mean, it is an organization that right now led by guys that I don't think have a true plan, that don't really know what exactly they're supposed to be doing, and that's kind of the main issue here. The Raiders have cut Germaine Pratt, but there are other major issues brewing in the Raiders locker room between players and coaches.
I mean, it's just it's classic.
It's just like,
what, you don't like a guy. All right, so he's gone. What does that say about everyone else in that locker room?
Did Germaine Pratt
playing in fear now?
I mean, again, it is the epitome of, we're going to do what we want to do.
We're going to play our guys.
We're going to do what we want to do, and the Raiders are going to do what they want to do, and it doesn't matter if it makes sense. I don't know what Germaine Pratt did. I don't know what Germaine Pratt said. I have absolutely positively no idea. All I know is I was told yesterday by a text. I didn't say anything because, again, I was enjoying my day with my wife. It's her birthday. And I was told that there are some major issues brewing right now inside of that Raiders locker room. And I was told that there are multiple players and multiple coaches that don't have good relationships right now. It was something that I'm going to talk about. We're going to get into it right here But now you're sitting back and you're going, I mean, it confirms it, right? Like, it confirms what I was told yesterday. Because for you to just outright release arguably your best linebacker, again, why can't we have nice things? I don't know. You ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Y'all ready to go? Let's get into this breaking news between Germaine Pratt, the Raiders, and this shit show. Because I'll tell you this, it's a shit show. Let's go. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, with some breaking news. The Las Vegas Raiders are moving on from linebacker Germaine Pratt. And this is why you should hit that subscribe button. When breaking news happens, I'm going to do my best here to keep you up to date. The other reason why you should subscribe to the Raiders Report, to the people that were watching our live Monday show, and if you don't know, you don't believe me, go back and watch my Monday live show, how I started off. And if you don't know when I started it, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific. One of my segments, one of my topics that I was going to discuss today live on the Raiders Report were some locker room issues between players and coaches that are brewing right now with the Raiders. And I said, I'm going to do an entire show on it. I already have an entire segment around some of these locker room issues because I knew coming into today that there were some major issues that were brewing inside of that Raiders locker room. And then guess what? The Raiders make an announcement that they are releasing linebacker Germaine Pratt, who arguably has been your best linebacker this season. Pratt did not get invited to go to the game in Indianapolis. He was a healthy scratch. I don't know why that ended up happening, but to me, there are some major issues brewing inside of that Raiders locker room as it stands right now. The first thing, Germaine Pratt getting released. That tells me everything that I was told yesterday by my source was 100% confirmed that there are some major issues in that Raiders locker room. And, you know, Pete Carroll was asked about it yesterday, why Pratt didn't travel with the team, and Pete literally just said, just decided to go with other guys. When you just decide to go with other guys, that's one thing. But I think also when you go with guys that aren't your guys, I think that's also another very interesting thing. Like, would Germaine Pratt have gotten released if he was Jamal Adams? I don't really know. Would Germaine Pratt have gotten released if it was a other Pete Carroll type of move? I don't know if it would have, but I know this, that Pratt has been the Raiders' most consistent linebacker this season. He's been much better than Devin White. Yeah, you're going to get to see a little bit more out of Tommy Eichenberg now, which, good. Hopefully we get to see a little bit more out of Cody Lindenberg. Hopefully we get to see a little bit more out of Jamal Adams, but when your coaches are making decisions like this, again, I don't know if Pratt said something. I don't know what the relationship is. I am solely going off of the information that I was given. And the information that I was given makes it sound very strong that Germaine Pratt is not the only player inside of that Raiders locker room that feels a type of way with this Raiders coaching staff. I want to be very, very clear on that statement. If this is the first time that you're hearing all of this, I want you to hit that subscribe button. I'm going to give you free content, and I'm going to give you honest Raiders content. I obviously want to always try to hit my goals here. I'd love to be able to get to 206,000 subscribers, but I want to make this statement very clear. I am not a Raiders beat reporter. I am not a Raiders insider. But from doing this show, the connections, the people that I have made, I have sources. You can believe me if you want. I don't give a shit at this point. But when I get information, I am going to share it with Raider Nation. Why? Because I care about Raider Nation way more than I care about any player, any coach's feelings. I don't give a shit about. But if you were subscribed to the show, you would have known that there were some major issues brewing inside of that locker room. Let's go to another reason here of why I know that there's issues now brewing inside of that locker room. Think about that Colts blowout loss, okay? The biggest game of the year. You're 1-3. If you get to 2-3, your chances of making the playoffs, 29%. You fall to 1-4, your chances of making the playoffs go all the way down to 5%. But in a game, that was the most important game of Geno Smith's career. In a game that you need to be able to prove to the entire world that, hey, we're still going out there, we're still fighting. You failed in all three aspects of the game. You failed miserably, quite frankly. And quite frankly, when you've been given a week to be able to prepare, let's not look at the first game because you had a whole off season. When you've had a week to prepare. You were disgraceful against the Chargers. You were horrific against the Colts. You did an okay job. Unfortunately, though, Geno Smith threw the ball away 3 times. One of your Pete Carroll guys there, Pete, who you also made the statement I just heard that no other changes are going to be made. So you're already telling yourself that it's okay to not compete as long as Pete Carroll likes that guy. I just want to make sure that I'm okay with that because that's what I heard right now, that you just made the decision that no other changes are going to be made because you're okay with Geno Smith's play. Why? Because he's a your guy. All right, I understand that. That's the issue right now with the Raiders locker room. And I'm going off tangent here a little bit, but the problem with the Raiders locker room right now is there are players that feel there are Pete Carroll guys, and then there are players that feel like they are being judged in a completely different window. And that is the most Josh McDaniels thing that I've heard in a very, very long time. But then let's also talk about a team that they did. They flat out quit yesterday. And when you have a team that quits on offense, quits on defense, quits on special teams, but you also have a coaching staff that I think kind of quit as well. Chip Kelly had his head up his ass. Patrick Graham had his head up his ass. And I know that this team lacks talent, but it lacks talent because you guys decided to not go out and get anybody. So in a must-win game, you have your team absolutely positively quit on you. That's how I know that issues are brewing inside of this Raiders locker room. Team quit versus the Colts, right? Not only was it a blowout loss to Indy, it was the way that the game looked. And it looked really flipping bad. It's either you got a bunch of players that don't give a shit about being Raiders, or you got a bunch of guys that aren't talented enough, or you got a team that quit. Pete Carroll told me that he thought this team was good enough to be able to win. That means that you don't know how to evaluate talent well enough. It means that you don't know how to evaluate your own team well enough. But then at the exact same time, I watched that game. A lot of players quit. And if you think that a bunch of the Raiders players quit yesterday, I want you to hit that like button because I told myself I wasn't going to get too fired up, too upset today, but I'm right back here in the same situation that I was in last year. We're just right back in to the same situation that I feel like we were in over and over and over again. Just no corrections are being made, and right now I think it's an ego problem. I think right now, based on the information that I've been given by the sources that I have, the ego that is being thrown around between the Raiders coaches, it is an ego of, I know more than you, and what you're providing me doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, what I say goes. And I get that's how coaching staffs work. I get that, it takes a relationship to be able to grow and to be able to develop. But also, if our coaches are acting in a way that it's just rubbing players the wrong way in a 1-4 start, I think that this thing is trending in the wrong direction. And the Germaine Pratt thing, yet again, proves that there are some major issues brewing inside of that locker room. Now, I got to give a shout-out to our sponsor here, Prize Picks. And Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app. Quite frankly, Prize Picks is how I'm going to get through this entire Raiders football season because Prize Picks is simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Prize Picks, how you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose a flex play where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want the biggest payouts, go for the power play. No matter your play, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. Now, if you want to see my Monday Night Football lineup, when I say I mean my Chat Sports teams. Patrick Mahomes, we went less on the 249.5 pass yards. This is a 3-pick power play, which means all 3 of these need to hit for me to put money in my pocket. Travis Etienne, touchdown. Trevor Lawrence, passing touchdown. If you want to go more or less, I will say this. If you plan on doing any lineups with the Raiders this season, if it's Geno Smith interceptions, I encourage the more. If it's anything besides that, I probably encourage you to pick the less. So, download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. So, let's now go to the next reason here of why issues are brewing. I know for a fact, and again, I want to be very, very, very clear on this statement. When I designed this show, it was before Germaine Pratt was going to be released. I knew that Germaine Pratt and the Raiders were having some issues, which is why I made this show, which is why I was talking about issues are brewing. I am being very, very honest with all of y'all. I went out for dinner last night with my wife. Today is actually her birthday. Happy birthday to my beautiful wife. And I told myself I'm going to send out a bunch of feelers. I'm going to send out a bunch of messages, but I'm not going to look at anything because after that game, I told myself I am going to concentrate on my wife. I'm going to concentrate on my family. I'm going to concentrate in front of the people that deserve my attention. But when I saw the messages that I got, I said I'm going to make a video on it. And I was told by a source there is some friction in the locker room between some players and coaches. Again, I want to be very clear. That statement, everything that I'm talking about on this show was all made and all prepared before the release of Germaine Pratt. I knew the Germaine Pratt thing was bad. I didn't realize it was this bad. But I want to be very clear again. It's not only Germaine Pratt. There are other players that have issues with the coaches in that locker room. And I'm not saying that there aren't coaches that have issues with players. I don't know that side. The only side I know, there are players that have issues with coaches on that Raiders team. So here's my question to you. Who is more to blame for this mess? I'm not saying more to blame for the 1-4 Raiders. I'm just saying who is more to blame for what the hell we're dealing with right now. If you think it's the coaches, I want you to type C for coaches. If you think it's the players, I want you to type P for players. Let me know down below who is more to blame. My answer is going to be coming up here after this YouTube ad break. If you want to know who is to blame more, I'll say this. Both coaches and players deserve responsibility. Both need to be better. Here's the problem, though. The Raiders do lack talent. And I would say you need to blame the coaches more than the players because we knew the Raiders lacked talent in multiple different areas on both the offense and the defensive side of the football. The problem is our coaches didn't know that. Our coaches are still talking about practicing in the middle of a Week 5 game, which is laughable. Our coaches are still talking about learning the players, though clearly you don't still know them. And I think right now there is a problem because another word that was texted me was hypocrite. Because right now some of the things feel like players feel what the coaches are preaching isn't being backed up. And when you preach certain things, you expect it to be backed up. And I'm not saying who told me the hypocrite word. I'm not going to get into all those details, but I'll give you this example, right? If Pete Carroll's going to go up there and he's going to preach compete, and then Pete Carroll goes up there and says no other changes are going to be made, well, how can you make that statement right now? That means that you're not making Geno Smith compete. But why is a guy like JPJ got to go out there and compete every single game day? It is, again, proven that there are Pete Carroll guys and there are other guys. But the Raiders had chances this offseason to improve. They had the money in salary cap. They had 11 picks in total for the draft. But the Raiders, Pete Carroll, John Spytek, this regime told me that we're going to be good enough to be able to figure it out because that's what we do. Patience, patience, patience. Well, my patience is getting fed up because what this Raiders team has done this offseason and this year, I think is arguably worse than what we saw from AP and that regime. Arguably worse than what we saw from Josh McDaniels and that regime. And I'm going to do a show tomorrow live on the Raiders Report about all the insanely dumb things that this regime has done because I've been keeping a laundry list. Wait till you see that video tomorrow. And then you're going to go, holy shit, I didn't realize how dumb this coaching staff is acting. And then let's go to the final one here. I got to make this statement very clear. I did not talk to Maxx Crosby. I have not talked to anybody from Maxx Crosby's team. But the moment I saw Max answer the questions the way that he did yesterday, where he was basically like, no comment, I don't want to talk about it, Max looked frustrated. And he looked frustrated last week on his podcast. And, you know, he looked almost mentally broken after that game against Indy. And quite frankly, I feel like every single Raiders fan felt mentally broken. But if the Raiders don't start winning soon, Crosby will not end his career in Las Vegas. Max did not tell me that. Nobody from Max's team has told me that. What told me that? The dollar bills, his contract, the front-loaded of that deal that they gave him. It makes it easier for the Raiders to trade him away in the year 2027. But when your leader, the face of your franchise, is as upset and is as frustrated as what Maxx Crosby is, I think when he shows that level of frustration, that's the level of frustration that is in that locker room. It doesn't take one-on-one. Again, anybody can read between the lines. Anybody that follows this team could see that there's some issues right now in that locker room. Also, though, I do want to talk about some other potential trade candidates because one of the things I was going to talk about here is why Germaine Pratt could potentially be cut or could be traded. Shout out to Reed for making this or fixing this graphic, if you will, on the fly. But if you're the Raiders and you're 1-4, you got to sit back and you got to go, all right, it's clearly a rebuild year. There's clearly nothing good that's going to come out of this season. So what can we do to move forward? These, to me, are the top 4 players that I would say teams will show the most interest in terms of making a potential move. Obviously, I don't want to trade away any of these guys. Actually, that's not true. I would trade away Dylan Parham just because I don't think that he's coming back. And if we get some extra draft capital, put Caleb Rogers out there in the field, let him learn by drowning or throw him into the fire, whatever the hell you want to call it. But these are the players that you're going to start to see some trade rumors around. Quite frankly, I would almost bet money that Jacoby won't be a Raider after the NFL trade deadline. And I don't want to trade JPJ, but there's clearly something that this coaching staff doesn't like about Jackson Powers-Johnson. And if you don't believe me, go check out the comments Chip Kelly made about him last week. Because Chip Kelly, what you said about JPJ last week, personally think it was a home move. So again, went live here, and I am live here on the Raiders Report, and I will be live on the Raiders Report every single Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific, to talk about the game that just happened. Now, obviously, if the Raiders play on a Thursday, I'll be live on that Friday. Obviously, if the Raiders play on that Monday, I'd be live on that Tuesday. But I want to be able to sit up here and talk to y'all and vent about what's happening. And one of the things that I knew was going to happen today, some information was going to come out on some locker room issues between players and coaches. And now it is overboiled to a point where the Raiders have decided to move on from Germaine Pratt. Now, if you want to hang out with me tonight, I'm going to be live Monday Night Football. I'm going to be live every single Monday night game, and this is me being real with y'all. Today is my wife's birthday. My wife gave me the okay because she understands what we do to put a roof over our head, put food on our table. My wife understands my level of commitment to Raider Nation. My wife understands how much I care about my job. But I'm saying this to you, man to man. I hope that you guys pull up for Monday Night Football tonight because we're going to get after it. We're going to get rowdy, and I'm done being sad, Pouty Mitch. I'm done being the guy that's upset about the Raiders doing Raider-type shit because that's what they're doing. They just do Raider-type shit over and over and over again. Let's have a little bit of fun Monday Night Football. I hope that you're there. I will also be live Tuesday, and I'm going to be live for Thursday Night Football. And then, obviously, this is the Raiders game when they end up playing the Tennessee Titans, and at least we get to figure out who's going to be the worst team in the NFL. All right, y'all, we're still live here on the Raiders Report. And I'd say just highlight. It will be good. I mean, oh boy. That's something. For what? Raiders? Oh, God, I don't know. I don't want to do that. That's pushing it. Yeah, that's pushing it. I mean, it's clever, but that's pushing it. That's pushing it. All right. I think both sides. Yeah, I can do it. I don't mind. I can do it. I'm down. Who is more to blame for this mess? Type C for coaches. Type P for players. Let's give some shout-outs here. Miguel Gomez, type in C for his coaches. Johnny Stewart, thank you very much, man. VT Holmes, again, thank you. Here's the thing. Like, I was going to make a post today, saying, oh, happy birthday. Happy birthday to my wife. I'm literally holding off, though, because I knew if I did it this morning, it was just going to be a cesspool of, angry people. I will end up making a post probably after this live show, just so all y'all know. All I'm going to say is this. If you're a Raiders fan and you're upset, if I post something about my wife's birthday, please don't say anything Raiders related. Just say happy birthday to her, because I get it. I'm frustrated just like all y'all. O for ownership from the Goon Renz. I think that's a good one. Professor Chung, who do you think will end up being released when Lonnie Johnson comes back? I actually don't know if they're going to release anybody, because I think Lonnie Johnson is a player that, again, Lonnie Johnson should not be a starter on any NFL team. Lonnie Johnson should be a special teams roster, bottom of your safety type of depth chart. But we're just going to keep throwing shit at the wall until it sticks. And I don't mean to be so rude to Lonnie Johnson Jr., but at the same time, I don't have any confidence in Lonnie Johnson Jr. to be a good player because what I'm doing now is I'm going to stick to my original evaluations because the Raiders haven't proven to me that they know what to do or what is best for this team. And I'm going back and I'm looking at a lot of my notes, and a lot of my notes have ended up being proven true. The one that I've gotten wrong so far, though, is Geno. No doubt about it. Let's go to Ant Ball. And Pete Carroll had the audacity to talk about Raider Nation to create a home field advantage. Meanwhile, they're playing BS games. Oh, I know. I don't actually think Geno Smith saying what he did yesterday about Raider Nation needing to be patient, and I don't think Pete Carroll understanding what he's saying either. And again, it's two people that are new to the Raiders. It's two people that don't understand what has been going on here clearly, and they just want their time and their patience, but they don't understand the years and decades of the frustration. So Again, I don't think Pete Carroll really truly realizes what he's saying right now, and I think it's because he doesn't know the Raiders. You got a guy right now that he's trying to do and say all the right things, but as far as I'm concerned, Pete's so lost right now. It's concerning.
It's all just empty.
We're not going to hire Gruden.
Empty words.
It is. It's. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that video of that little kid. Have you ever had a dream? Have you ever had a dream where you could, which you would have, would, you could have, should have, would, could,
I think
should have, would be any, would, could, should have a dream, would, that you could be anything? That's Pete Carroll right now.
Yep.
And I'll be real. I don't think I got those quotes right, but if you've ever seen that video, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I also think it's the classic, like, if you're in, like, a relationship and the other person isn't, the same anymore, or, they'll be like, oh, I'll change for sure. Yeah,
They tell you
I'll
every
do all
week that they're
this,
going to change.
Tell you everything you want to hear, and then weeks go by, and you're like, nothing has changed.
Nothing.
It's the exact same thing. It is the classic toxic relationship.
I mean, like Pete Carroll, you're a professor. If a student failed every one of your tests and looked you dead in the eyes and goes, I'm going to study more, would you believe him? Of course you wouldn't. You'd either be like, you're dumb, take another class, or B, I don't believe you, study harder, right? Like, and that's where I'm at as a Raiders fan. Pete's saying a bunch of nothing. Geno's going up there saying a bunch of nothing. And when our leaders are saying a bunch of nothing, I would imagine that they're saying a bunch of nothing to our players. And the 40-6 blowout game that I saw against the Colts looks like a team that's got no idea where it's going. I kind of hope we lose to the Titans, put everybody on the hot seat. I will never hope that the Raiders lose. I will never, ever hope that the Raiders lose. Now, there might be times late in the season where I'm going, shit, maybe we got a chance to have that number 1 overall pick, right? And maybe having a number 1 overall pick will allow us to draft a quarterback. Maybe it'll allow us, get some extra draft capital. Look what the Browns did this year. The Browns, you look at the players that they drafted, those players are killing it. I was begging the Raiders to draft Carson Swessinger. I was begging the Raiders to draft Mason Graham at defensive tackle. And then I just if you know that you're going to have to do a rebuild, if the number 1 overall pick or a high pick allows you to do the rebuild and you can restock on a lot of those other players, then sometimes that's what we got to be able to do. But I will not hope that the Raiders lose to the Titans. I hope that the Raiders beat the Titans, they see the ball go through the net, and they get some momentum going. Because if this is the shit I got to deal with all year, I don't like doing this show when the Raiders lose. Nobody wants to watch me bitch and moan about the Raiders. People like when their team's winning, when I'm up here on this show and we're doing random beer bongs on a frickin' Monday because the Raiders are, 4-1. Shit, man, 3-2. What I would be doing right now if this was a win. If the Raiders would have beat the Colts and we were 2-3, bro, we'd be celebrating our dicks off. Hey, Mitch and Reed, realistically, is there any circumstance where Pete Carroll will bench Geno? In that case, can he play for the rest of the season? I mean, Pete Carroll already said it today. No other changes will happen. He already said it. No other changes are going to happen. And that is an infuriating statement because I don't understand how you can preach compete, but you don't make guys compete. Right? Like, if you had kids, if your oldest, let's say you got 3 kids, your oldest, you expect your oldest to be the best behaved, right? Because he's your oldest. He's your captain. What happens if your oldest son is misbehaving and you don't do anything to punish him? I bet your younger kids misbehave too. Why? Because they see that, if you don't punish the oldest, you're probably not going to punish the youngest. And it's a trickling effect. And right now, that's, to me, what the Raiders look like. They look like a team that they're too afraid to punish their favorites, but yet the frustration that they have is pent up, and they're taking it out on the redheaded stepchild. If you're a redheaded stepchild, I'm sorry. Tony Williams. Hey, Goofy, you predicted 4-1 start. The joke's on you. I actually don't know if I did. I wouldn't shock me if I did.
I was going to say, not allowed to have hope in the beginning of the season, apparently.
Yeah, and again, to me, I've done this show for a long time, and I've thought about how I want to run content. And the way that I've thought about it is I say it all the time. If you're a Raiders fan and you don't have optimism and you don't have hope, and if you don't paint that glass half full mentality, it's a long year, And for me, somebody that does this every single day, and honestly, man, you spent your $2. I feel goofy for thinking the Raiders are going to win, so I'm not going to get upset about it. But the joke's not on me. The joke's on us, and that's the problem. To me, if I'm going to make content, I'm going to try to be hopeful in the offseason, because the Josh McDaniels years, they honestly, I feel like, took years off of my life. Being that negative, that upset all the time. I didn't like the person that I was. So to me, I've seen how divided Raider Nation has been throughout the years. I've seen, the Derek Carr days. I saw 2023. It's just my number one objective this year was to try to bring Raider Nation together in any way possible. Again, to me, we got to be together. And I get it. Maybe you grew up in a house where, you kick people when they're down. I didn't grow up in that type of house. I grew up in a house when somebody gets knocked down, you try to pick them up, and I think that's what being a good friend and being a good family member is about. And Tony, I hope that, I don't know how old you are. I'm hoping that, the older and older you get, when you build a family of your own or when you have friends of your own, that you try to pick them up when they're down and, not kick them. But I also understand, if this is your opportunity to do a victory lap, I get it. Alexis, when do we start looking at 2026 mock draft? I don't even really want to – I don't even really want to bring it up because it's too early for me to do it. I hated talking mock drafts last year. To me, in all honesty, the earliest I'm going to start talking about mock drafts is December. And the only reason why that I say that is because I go back and I look at a lot of the content that I did last year around mock drafts, around the draft in general, and I look at what those shows were and how different it ended up being. Different regimes come in. I don't expect a different regime this time, but, players change, injuries happen, evaluations on players totally change. The draft pick where we're at, that changes. I don't want to put out content that I feel like is a waste. Now, if somebody on this show, let's say today's MVP, right? Huge shout out to today's MVP, Isaac Hernandez. If Isaac Hernandez was like, hey, I want to see a mock draft, that's when I would do it. If there was an MVP that showed up for me and said, hey, I wanted this, I would do it. What up, Sir Chai? Mitch, do you believe if John Fisher had sold the Oakland A's and Mark Davis had sold the Raiders, would Oakland as a city have better sports success? I don't think so. And the only reason why that I say that is because California, again, they didn't make any progress. And I think I'm going to get into a whole political battle here, but I think there's a reason why California as a state right now is having some issues. It's because the people at the top aren't making proper decisions. It's really hard to get shit done in California, and I'm going to leave it like that. But I don't think that there would have changed anything. If anything, I still think we'd be in the exact same situation that we're at. And I actually think as a Raiders fan, we should be happy that we made the move to Las Vegas, because I've talked to players that are much more excited about playing in Las Vegas compared to playing in Oakland. The amount of money difference that you can make playing in Las Vegas compared to playing in California, it's very, very different. The Raiders franchise is worth a lot more money, so we're able to do some of the things that maybe Mark Davis in years past wasn't able to do due to cash considerations. But the only thing that I miss is an Oakland tailgate. Again, and I didn't live out there. I don't know what it was like out there, but I'll say this. In my experiences that I've had with players, agents, I still think that the move to Vegas was the best thing that they did. Let's go to Nate May. We need to start the youth movement. Starting line should be Grant, Rogers, JPJ, Parham, and Glaze. I don't disagree with this statement at all. And I said it earlier in the week. I said, if it was up to me, if we're going to go full rebuild, let's play some of our younger guys. Sure, we might throw them into the fire a little bit, but I'll tell you this, I feel like I'm already in the fire. If I'm already in the fire, I might as well have our younger players get a little bit of toastiness on them. Might as well have them get a little bit freshened up a little bit, because what we're doing right now is we are a pathetic football team, but we're also not helping any of our young guys. That's concerning to me. What up, Derek? You're next up here on the show. Since 2003, we have lost 107 games by 14-plus points. If that's a true stat, that's unbelievable. God bless you. If that's a true stat, that's actually hard to believe. 107 games by double-digit touchdowns, that's an LOL, Derek. Andrew. All right. Sir Chai. Rumor has it, Germaine Pratt going back to, I think this happened, I'm guessing, before the news. I mean, here's the thing, though. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Pratt was going back to the Bengals. Pratt obviously has a long history there. Honestly, where I think he goes? You want my honest take? The Indianapolis Colts. Why? The Raiders just played the Colts. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Raiders didn't send Germaine Pratt to Indianapolis. Do you know who's the Indianapolis Colts defensive coordinator? Lou Way. Where was he a defensive coordinator? Cincinnati Bengals. All I'm saying is, again, I was texted something very interesting along those lines. I'm not going to get into all the details here, but my guess actually would be Germaine Pratt goes to the Colts. Because I think there's more to Germaine Pratt not going to Indy than meets the eye, based on the messages I received. We shall see, though. Only the Raiders can get blown out 40-6 and then proceed to fire a defender who wasn't part of the blowout. Also, a reminder in the show, when I was talking about there's going to be fall guys, and there's going to be people that take the blame for certain things. I think what the Raiders are doing right now is they're not man enough. Pete Carroll's not man enough. Chip Kelly's not man enough. Patrick Graham's not man enough. The leaders of that team, John Spytek, not man enough. I'm not saying that it is those guys' faults, but when you are the coaches, when you are the leaders of a team, at the end of the day, it falls on your shoulders. And instead of them being man enough to be able to admit fault, again, that ego word is getting thrown out a lot, and a lot of egos being thrown around with these coaches. They don't have the ability to say, I made the mistakes. I did wrong. All Pete's saying is we just need to practice more. Geno Smith yesterday, we need to get all 11 guys in sync. We know that. I know that. But also, when you play the way that you just played and your leaders are saying those type of stuff, that's concerning to me. It's concerning. Looks like Germaine Pratt was made the fallout guy. What up, Raider J? One-word reaction. Dysfunctional. Yep. There's also another one-word reaction that you can almost, if you take away the DYS and if you take away the TIONAL, that's how I feel right now. That's how I feel. What up, Josh? Just tank, baby. Believe it, baby. I just think the problem is you can't tank. Who are you tanking for? If you told me, Mitch, we're going to tank for the number 1 overall pick to then trade the number 1 pick to be able to acquire more assets, let's tank. There's not a quarterback that I love. Carson Beck makes me nervous. I know Beck's been playing a lot better, but at the same time, is Carson Beck a leader of men? I don't know. Is Carson Beck somebody that I want to die on a hill on? I don't know. And I think, again, Pete's showing me that he's going to be stubborn with Geno. So if we're going to be this stubborn with Geno, I would say let's tank for the number 1 pick. Let's trade out of that number 1 pick, and let's just try to get more draft assets. Let's try to get more players that can help us on multiple spots of the ball because we just have so many damn holes. And I don't know how we're going to fill them. Because if you ask our coaches, I don't think that they need to fill any holes. What up, Blake? Love you, Mitch. Love the nation. Think it's time to make our voices heard and start impacting Mark's wallet. Time to let Mark know that he needs to sell. Again, I think the only way possible that that's going to happen is if you don't go to the games, okay? Here's the other true statement part of that, and this is where I'm going to be selfish. I want Mark Davis at some point to give me an opportunity to show that what I'm doing here let's do it on a bigger scale, right? I want Mark to hire me and Chat Sports, and I want to be able to do watch parties at Allegiant Stadium. I want to be able to do certain things. And I don't know who that next guy the Raiders would end up, if there was somebody that bought the team. I just have a really good source that's very good friends with Mark Davis, right? They live in the same neighborhood together. So, like, me being selfish, I think it hurts me getting some of the source information that I get if Mark sells the team. On the other end of it, I'll be honest, I do think that Mark should sell the team. I think that Mark should realize that, like, he is also part of this problem, and it's not an easy decision to make, and he's not going to sell it because, again, he's making money off it. The things growing over and over and over again. But at the exact same time, like, the only way that you're going to get Mark to sell the team is if the Raiders start dropping in value. And I think the only way that that is truly going to happen is if fans stop going to games. I don't know how else we as fans can make a bigger impact on Mark's wallet. Stop going to Raiders games at Allegiant Stadium. Stop going. If you're a season ticket holder, it sucks. I know. Sell your tickets. I don't know. Sell your tickets. If Pete can't fix the Raiders, then who can? A young, offensive-minded head coach. Like, I bought into what Pete was selling this offseason, and I bought in, to a lot of stuff this offseason because I'm a hopeful Raiders fan. If you're not a hopeful Raiders fan, then you're probably not a Raiders fan, right? Yeah, you're just, if you're not a hopeful Raiders fan, then you live a sad, miserable life, and it's just the truth. You got to have hope if you're a Raiders fan. So I was selling, or I was eating a lot what they were selling. But I think anybody that watches this show knows the number one thing that I've said year in and year out. If I was hiring a head coach, I would hire a young, innovative, young, offensive-minded coach, and I'd go out and draft a quarterback with him. Because what I'm seeing right now, what Pete's doing is he's not showing the ability to change. He's not showing the ability to consume information. And, if you got a bunch of these old guys, Chip Kelly, Pete Carroll, if they don't know how the internet works, I actually wonder if I've watched more tape than Pete Carroll this year. I know how the internet works. I know how to get certain information. Why? Because I just know how to use the computer. Again, if my dad was a football coach for 30-plus years, I still would run laps around him with technology because I know how technology works. I don't know, man. I don't understand how bad the Raiders are right now. Slaughterproof. Was Pratt just mad that Jay Adams outplayed him? No. Nope. And Jamal Adams has been the linebacker that deserves more reps. No doubt about it. My problem, though, is not with Jamal Adams. My problem on that linebacker room is Devin White. And I know Devin White's more of a spy tech guy that they brought in, but Devin White was somebody that this team brought in with the thought of this is my guy. This is somebody that I want to be able to use, and I want to try to create a resurgence out of him. Pratt came in, I want to say it was probably like June, if I had to guess, June 8th, June 9th, June 10th is when Germaine Pratt was signed with the Raiders. And they did that because they were like, oh, shit, our linebacker room sucks. But from what I understand, Pratt was released because of some other issues with some other coaches and some other players. Again, I don't have all the information on it, but there's some more issues that are behind the scenes that even I don't know. Mitch, party just started late. Yeah, I know. What did that say? Oh, yeah, Pratt just got released again. We're live right now.
I was going to say, I just kind of threw it in with the other one. Paul,
I got you.
Shout out to Paul for sending in that super chat, but I just threw it in because we're getting caught up on all your guys' super chats, and that happened when it just happened, so I was just throwing it in there. Thanks, Paul.
Shout out to Paul. What up, Lakers? Hope fans throw their Raiders jerseys on the field. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because, again, what happens? Then you just threw money out of your pocket. Right? Mark's probably cheap enough to scoop those jerseys up and sell them at the Raider Image store. I wouldn't do that. I feel like Squints from the Sandlot. I can't take this no more. 2 decades of this shit. Dude, I love the movie Sandlot. The movie Sandlot is one of the greatest sports movies ever. Now, Sandlot 2 sucked. It was more of a love story, but I can't take losing anymore. I am very, very appreciative of the nation. I'm appreciative of the nation. The fact that you guys show up here, the fact that you guys are always down to rock with me. Like, if there's a message that you want to get across, let's get that message across. Because, again, if you show up to the game, you already paid. You already paid. Just don't show up to the game. I know You want Raiders fans, like, this is me being selfish. Show up here on the Raiders Report, because our message is going to be way, way, way louder together on this stream, a show that I know for a fact, Mark Davis watches. I don't know how often he watches, but I know Mark listens. I know he does. And I know that he hears our frustrations. Your frustrations are going to be heard way easier on the Raiders Report than I think by you going to a stadium, because what are you going to do? You're going to hold up a sign? Mark's going to kick you out, right? Like, we've already seen that song and dance. Locker room is lost. We saw a team quit when the Chargers quit on Stanley. Raiders quit. Pete is acting like Belichick, just keeping his guys doesn't work. And, maybe, like, that's the problem right now with Pete. Maybe Pete's kind of doing the whole, like, oh, I've been there, I've done that, like, get me to buy in, get me to believe because of what you've done in the past. But I don't give a shit about what you've done in the past. I care about what you are doing with the Las Vegas Raiders. And if there's players inside of that locker room that are hearing and seeing what you're doing and they're like, man, this doesn't make any sense, I don't blame players for sticking up and for speaking up. The problem is players who speak up that aren't Pete Carroll guys are getting shut down. I'll leave it like that. Justine, what's reputable qualified player would want to come to the Raiders? Money may not keep those we currently have. We have really good players giving their hearts right now. Here's the problem, Justine. We don't have really good players giving their hearts right now. I think we have if you were to look at this roster, in all honesty, I think it's a bottom 10 roster in the NFL. I think our offense should be much better on paper. I think on paper we have a good offense. We do. Our quarterback just sucks right now. Chip Kelly's not doing a good job, and we got a lot of issues on offense, no doubt about it. I also think, though, when you look at our defense on paper, it's one of the worst defenses in the NFL. So what the problem is, we didn't make any adjustments when we could have made adjustments all off season. And the players that we have, I don't think are playing their hearts out, because that team yesterday quit, and they easily quit. What reputable, qualified player would want to come to the Raiders? I couldn't tell you. I don't know who would want to come play for the Raiders right now. I don't have the answer for you. Let's go to Project. What up, Project? I think Chugs just tweeted out a video, so I'm going to tweet it out. Hang on, y'all. The one video that I just put out on Germaine Pratt, I just want to be able to tweet this out.
Early Riser said, I have old jerseys, so I'm keeping mine.
I mean, if you guys want to bring old ones.
The craziest thing is just how expensive it still will be. It's not going to change.
I mean, you're hoping that it changes. I agree with you. I don't expect the Raiders ticket prices to change, but you still got to at least hope. Watch also. Hang on. How about this? While I'm tweeting out this video, if you want to shout out here on the Raiders Report, on a scale of 1 to 10, how frustrated are you right now as a Raiders fan? Reed's going to give shout outs.
That's a good question.
Reed's going to give shout outs.
1 through 10. How frustrated are you? Seth coming in with a 10. Mike said 20. The Gap Kings with a 10. Seth is very, very much said 10. Brian with a 10. PJ with a 10. Kevin, 10. Oh, my God. Yeah, everyone's saying it. Michael with a 10. Ricky with a 10,000. Zalesbo with 100. Anthony, 50. King Zay with a lot. That looked like a billion. Iron Raider with a 10. Jordan, 10.
Keep them coming.
IA Raider, 10. Brian, 9. All right. We got some 9. Bobby with a 9 as well. Raiders Nation with a 30. Giuseppe with 990. Very specific.
990?
We got Early Riser with trillion. Blake with over 9,000.
What's the biggest number that you guys can put in there?
Oh, geez.
Giggity. What's the biggest number?
I mean, Brian said infinity, so.
That's not even a number, though.
It's a. Oh, Kane Michael B with a 10. What's up, Kane?
Kane.
Kip.
Michael
Kip said, "What are we rating?"
How mad you are.
How upset you are.
I'll also say this. When I started today's Monday show, I said Monday shows are going to be predicated on venting, are going to be predicated on just getting your voice heard, getting, all of these questions in. For those of you that do not know, we are 2 super chats away. 2 super chats away. 2 $5
or more
from our goal. If you don't know that goal, it's at the very, very top of the sheet, very, very top of the comment section. Click on that. If you plan on tuning into Monday Night Football, if you plan on tuning into Monday Night Football,
there it is.
Well, I owe a boot.
You owe a boot.
I owe a boot on Monday Night Football. And you know what? I'm down to get down tonight. I'm serious when I say it. I'm down to get down tonight on Monday Night Football. So much so that every bang I get right now here on the Raiders Report, I'm going to add it to my beer bong piggy bank. I hope I tune into Monday Night Football, and I hope I'm blacked out before kickoff even happens. I am so fed up with this flipping team.
Yeah.
So fed up with this flipping team. Though, it's funny you bring up Russell Wilson. If you were a Raider fan right now, you're probably a Raiders fan watching the show, Russell Wilson or Geno Smith. Like, in all honesty, I know people are like, oh, we should go out and trade for Shedeur. It's never going to happen. They're never going to trade for Shedeur. Never going to happen. It's not going to happen. I shouldn't even say realistic, because I don't think it's realistic they're going to trade for anybody. If you told me right now, gun to my head, Mitch, the Raiders just traded for a quarterback. Who is it? His name's Russell Wilson. Because of the Pete Carroll connection.
Can I be honest?
Yep.
If we're trading for a Giants quarterback, I'd pick Jameis Winston. I'd pick Jameis Winston before I'd pick
The only
Russell
reason
Wilson.
why I say you can't pick Jameis is, one, the turnovers, very turnover prone, but it's the Pete Carroll connection. Like, I'm not saying like that's the wrong decision to make. I'm saying me thinking the way that Pete Carroll and this regime has shown me, they're not going to go out and trade for Winston. Now, Winston was a teammate of Tom Brady.
I just
was somebody part of the spy tech regime.
I just think
but he don't have the connections that Russ does with Pete.
I just think he gives more, energy. And
he definitely gives more energy.
And we would have more fun on the show watching Jameis Winston than Russell Wilson.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I also think that Winston would do way more for your locker room, where Wilson,
oh, yeah.
If you traded for Wilson, you want to talk about locker room issues, get ready. Because they would pile in, man. They would be piling in. Let's go to the Soup Daddy. Reed, what hat are you wearing? Curious question.
You may never know.
It is an NFL hat.
It is an NFL hat. We'll see if anyone can guess.
It is an NFL hat.
We'll see if anyone can guess.
You guys can put your comments down below if you want to try to guess. Take your best guess.
Chris Reed.
What up, Chris? What do you think about Fernando Mendoza? I'll say this. He's been a fun quarterback to watch. I watched him the past few games. I think he's right now in the perfect system for him in college. But at the same time, do I think Mendoza is going to be a good enough quarterback to save the Raiders? No, I personally do not think so. It's still early in the process right now, but Carson Beck to me probably looks like the most NFL-ready guy. But I just have heard so much bad shit about Carson that makes me a little bit nervous. I've also, I look at a guy like Sellers, and I think, what type of offense could we run? Could we run a physical offense with Sellers, with Genty? You use your 2 tight ends, the Michael Mayer, Brock Bowers, more 12 personnel, and then you put JPJ at center, and you try to play this FU brand of football. That was the brand of football I thought we were going to play. Instead, I don't know what type of brand of football we're playing, because there's no identity to it at all. Let's keep it moving here on the Raiders Report. Got a few we still have quite a few supers to get all caught up. Once I get all caught up, we will do the final segment here on today's program. Jason, what up, Jason? Bringing Sanders in as a quarterback solves nothing that the team needs. A mobile quarterback able to withstand a poor offensive line. I will say this. Got to give the Raiders offensive line some credit. They have played much better the past 2 weeks. The past 2 weeks, it's been a Geno Smith, Chip Kelly problem. way more than it has been a offensive line problem. But I also agree with you that bringing in Sanders solves absolutely nothing. Like, I said this where if you were a true Shedeur Sanders fan, why on earth would you want him to come to the Raiders? I mean, there's nothing that we have here right now that proves stability. Like, I think putting out a rookie quarterback who shows you some of the immaturities on and off the field, you're not putting him in the right situation. And I don't think that we're in any different situation with Shedeur Sanders. And again, like, I know how bad Geno Smith's played. I still think Geno is probably a better quarterback than Sanders at this current moment. I'm not saying that Sanders isn't going to turn into something special, but like, to me, I personally don't see it. But I agree. I don't think bringing in Sanders solves anything. Anthony Green, Rome wasn't built in a day. Did we forget that, buddy? No, did not forget that. But did Rome make progress? When Rome was being built, was there progress being made? Was there progress being made? Yes or no? The answer to that question is yes. And I know it's a different analogy. Totally get it. But I think people that say Rome wasn't built in the day when talking about the Raiders, then you're fully bought into the rebuild. Okay, let's fully buy into that rebuild, because if the Raiders and Pete Carroll told me Rome wasn't built in the day, then why is Pete Carroll standing up there at the podium saying that I expected to win right now? All right, well, if you expected to win right now, why aren't we winning? Well, if we're in rebuild mode, then shouldn't we be playing some of our younger guys a little bit more? It's just what Pete is saying is the exact opposite of what he's doing, and that's my problem. I want to be able to believe in Rome. I know that we're trying to build Rome, but right now, I don't know what we're building. We ain't building nothing. Nothing. Let's go to S-Dot. Deshaun Jackson and Shady McCoy. I'll say this. Deshaun Jackson and Shady McCoy are two absolute knuckleheads. Everybody about Chip Kelly on the video. No surprise. Chip already tried to change Gentie's stance. Chip runs empty set streaks in the red zone, making Geno look stupid. I will say this. Taking advice from Deshaun and Shady, that's a choice. I'll leave it like that. But they're not wrong on Chip, because when you look at what Chip Kelly has done, and again, I'm going to make a video on it because, to me, I write things down during a game. I write down things that I see throughout the week. I write down a bunch of notes. And then when I start seeing notes and what I write down get backed up by stats, that's when I make a video about it. When you guys see the video that I'm going to drop on the Raiders Report this week around Chip Kelly and his inefficiencies as a play caller, I hope Chip Kelly knows my name by the end of the week. I hope that he knows my name by the end of the week. What up, Brian Folsom? Mitch, I just want to echo many of us in Raider Nation and thank you and your team for giving us a voice. In your opinion, what can be done to correct the team right now? Oh, man, there's a lot of issues with this team, no doubt about it. I don't know if there is an easy one-step solution, but I'll say it like this. Based on what I have heard the last 24 hours, I think the number one thing the Raiders need to do is bench Geno Smith and start Kenny Pickett. And the reason why that I say that is I think it would prove to a lot of players in that locker room that we're all on the same playing field. We're all equal. We're all Raiders, right? Not certain players are held to a higher standard than others, because certain players, I think, have earned that right. Maxx Crosby has earned that right. But there are players inside that Raiders locker room that, yes, wanted to believe in Geno Smith, that I think still do believe in Geno Smith. But Geno's not playing well. And, there are other guys that are saying, like, hey, if we're going to live by this compete mantra, why aren't we living by this compete mentality? Why aren't we living by that compete mantra? So I think to spark a little bit of hope with Raider Nation, to spark a little bit of hope in that locker room, I think benching Geno Smith and playing Kenny Pickett is the route to go. Because I'll also say this. If you turn on the tape, it's clearly a Geno Smith problem. And there's other areas that we can get better, no doubt about it. But it is so clear a Geno Smith problem, and I get it. We still gave up 40 points. A lot of other areas to improve upon. But Geno Smith is really bad right now, and I can't iterate that enough. The tape is so bad. He's so bad right now. Locho, I genuinely think we lose to the Titans. Genuinely, I don't, and I don't know how Tennessee came back yesterday as one of the craziest comebacks. that I have seen in a very long time in that Cardinals game. Now, Tennessee's got some momentum on their side, no doubt about it. But if the Raiders lose to the Tennessee Titans, somebody will get fired. I don't know who. It won't be Pete. It won't be Graham. It won't be Chip. It won't be Spytech. Mark my words. Keyword there is mark. Mark my words. If the Raiders lose to the Titans, there will be somebody fired. I don't know who, but somebody will get fired. I see that you're putting up the duck race, which we have not talked about in probably an hour or so. If you want to get in for a chance to win a little bit of money today, we're going to do a small duck race. It is a $10 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365. Right now you're in for a chance to win $40 here on the program. Let's go to Christopher. What up, man? Pete is up to his head with these challenges, and the Geno situation is crazy, but any coach would sit him. When's AOC ready to come back? Again, even when AOC comes back, he's not the guy, and he's not going to be the guy. They traded for Kenny Pickett for a reason. If Geno gets benched, it's going to be Kenny Pickett. If Kenny Pickett is so bad and he gets benched, they will go back to Geno Smith. I'm just telling you what's going to happen. If you don't believe me, well, then we can wait and see on that. But AOC, he's eligible to come back at any time. The problem is when the Raiders do activate him, he's got a 3-week window because of the new IR rules. So when the Raiders do activate him, he's got to be able to return in 3 weeks. If it was up to me, if I was the Raiders, I would hold off on Aiden O'Connell because the moment you bring back AOC back, there's going to be fans begging you to start him. And I think right now one of the reasons why you're not going to hear about him is because the Raiders have already made their statement. Pete Carroll already made a statement. No other changes are going to be made. Geno Smith will be the Raiders quarterback going forward. And I think if you're the Raiders, you hold out Aiden O'Connell as long as you possibly can. You hold him out until Geno starts playing better. And if Geno doesn't play better, well, then I would say expect AOC to be back by week 9. What up, Ricky? I love Maxx, but you think we should trade Maxx. I do not think that we should trade Maxx. I don't think trading Maxx makes us a better football team. I don't think trading the one player that personifies what it means to have commitment to excellence, to be a leader, makes any sense. Now, if a team offers us 3 first-round picks, not going to lie, I would entertain that idea, right? Like, you got to look at the price tags. I just don't think that a team is going to offer us what we want for Maxx Crosby right now. Again, we'd be kind of selling low, and I don't really want to sell low, and I don't think Maxx wants to be traded. I know Maxx wants to be a Raider. I know in his heart of hearts he wants to be a Raider, but there is a lot of underlying frustration, and if a Maxx trade were to happen, it would happen either next year or the year the most likely it would happen is 2027. But based on what I know, this is not from Crosby's team, the reason why the Raiders structured the contract the way they did was to do right by Maxx. Maxx is going to be on the team, and in the year 2027, if they're still not winning games, that's when Crosby is gone. So, again, if they're not winning by 2027, Maxx Crosby will be elsewhere. Joe Brady and Lenore Sellers, believe it, baby. Sign me up, dude. Again, sign me up. I was begging for Joe Brady a few years ago. I've been begging for a young offensive-minded coach because, to me, young offensive-minded coaches prove year in and year out that they can get it done. And they're trending in the right direction. Let's go to Raider Yo. What's up, Raider Yo? Raider Yo. Raider Yo. Between JPJ, releasing Pratt, the Geno bullshit, the fact that Pete making PG run this 3 high bullshit, we're done. I was looking forward to being at the Titans game, but not now. I would sell your tickets. If you still want to go to the game. Have fun. But I personally would not go. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of shit going on in the background, and I think the Germaine Pratt is just it solidifies a lot of the rumors that I heard coming into today. It solidifies a lot of the things that we're seeing with our eyeballs. But the Patrick Graham defense and the Pete Carroll defense, it's a weird combination. But it's a weird combination because we don't have the right players playing in that system. Like, again, we need a free safety. We just don't have a free safety. We need more guys that can cover. Too many of our linebackers get lost in no man's land. Too many of our safeties get lost in no man's land. Too many of our corners are lost in no man's land. And it's because we just don't have the talent. Our coaching staff thought that they were good enough to be able to make bad players good. And unfortunately, this coaching staff is proving that they are turning bad players to worse. Raider J, was Norv and Scott Turner a better tandem at OC than Chip Kelly? Antonio Pierce never lost the locker room. That is very untrue. Antonio Pierce did lose the locker room. And he didn't lose the locker room the same way that Pete's losing it. AP lost the locker room from a respect standpoint. Like, there were players that just didn't respect AP as a head coach because, again, he was not a head coach. He was somebody that clearly proved was in way over his head and could do all the rah-rah stuff, but at the end of the day, wasn't good enough to get the job done. Did people like AP? Yes, but to say that he didn't lose the locker room, I would encourage you to watch the show more. In terms of Norv and Scott, sure. I don't think I can't believe how bad this Raiders offense is. Again, I can't, like, with Chip Kelly, with Geno Smith, with the skill possession players that we have, a lot of injuries, and again, not having a healthy Brock Bowers has definitely hurt us, no doubt about it. Goldilocks Lawrence better beat the Kansas City Chiefs. It's funny that you say that. Earlier today, Chugs walked in the studio. He showed me a thumbnail, and it was like Patrick Mahomes was Kermit the Frog, and Goldilocks, Trevor Lawrence, was Taylor Swift. So I was like, oh, boy. Raider, yo, bench Pete. Don't think that's possible, man. I don't think that's possible. Search Shy. No, Jackson Dart and Jameis are real close in the locker room. They are close, but that was the reason why they brought in Jameis. They brought in a guy like Jameis because they knew what bringing in a guy like Russell Wilson meant. And Russell Wilson's going to divide a locker room where Jameis is going to bring it together. Lumpkin, as Raiders fans, we are like that girl who keeps taking her boyfriend back, hoping he will change, and they just never change. Every season, we are like this a new year, but same shit. I'm tired, Mitch. You're not wrong, dude. It's the worst relationship I've ever been in. Like, I hope that somebody does a study one day on how loyal Raider fans are, because Raider fans are the most loyal fans that I've covered here in the time for my NFL experience. Again, the amount of losing, the amount of bad losing, the amount of turnover, the just lack of hope. The lack of hope, it's overwhelming. Raider. I did not hear anything in this regard. I'll reach out to some people. I'll do a little bit of digging, but I don't think I'm going to get information on that. I'll try. I will do my best, but I don't think I'm going to get information out on that. I'll tell you this. Based on what I was told, that's not what I was told. Again, I was told some other things happened between some players and coaches, but that's not one of the things I was told. Season's a bust. Time to focus on the Warriors. We do have a Warriors channel. Go check it out. Kane, looking fresh, my brother. Looking fresh, my brother. Solomon Thomas, Mateer is the best quarterback in the draft if he declares. Not going to lie, I like John Mateer a lot. And I like John Mateer. He's got it up here. He looks always cool, calm, and collected. Kind of reminds me a little bit of that Baker Mayfield side. And, I look at, not just saying that because of Oklahoma, I'm talking about what he brings to the table as a leader, as a football player. John Mateer is a football player. And those are guys that I'll go to battle for, no doubt about it. And if you can try to recreate what you did with Baker Mayfield down in Tampa Bay, maybe we're able to recreate something like that with John Mateer. But at this point, I want the Raiders to hire a new young offensive-minded coach, and I want the Raiders to draft a quarterback. I know that's probably not going to happen, but that's where I'm at. Got to boycott this next game. Only way Mark hears us. This is wild. JPJ got to compete, but Geno doesn't. Geno knows this system. Mark must be pissed. Geno doesn't know the system. But everything else here, I do agree with you, where it's lame that JPJ's got to compete, but a guy like, Geno Smith doesn't have to. It's annoying. It's aggravating, and this is some of the frustrations that some players are dealing with inside of that locker room. But Geno doesn't know the system, and he does. And again, it's a brand new system for him. Like, it's a brand new Chip Kelly offense. It's a brand new system. It's a lot of brand news, new quarterback coach, a lot of news, a lot of news. So I don't think it's fair to say that Geno knows the system. David, what up, David? Thank you, man, for the donation. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. On hell, we need young coaches. F these old coaches. I mean, at this point, I'm on board with you. Tank, we got the bad games out of the way. 12-4 is coming, bro. I'll tell you this. I would get a 12-4 tattoo. Though, do we still beat the Chiefs then in the final game? I don't know, because there's still one more game to be had. The Uprisen. What was up with Pratt? Sorry, just got off of work. So I was told this morning that there were some issues with Germaine Pratt and the Las Vegas Raiders. I was also told that there are some other players and issues with some coaches that are brewing. One of the segments that I was going to do was around these issues, and I'll be honest, you guys probably heard me when I was live. The Germaine Pratt notes that I had were coming up fourth on the show. Now they started it off, but Germaine Pratt was released today by the Las Vegas Raiders, and even though he wasn't having the best season, I'd make the argument he's probably your most consistent linebacker. He's been better than Devin White. He's been better than a Landon Roberts. Jamal Adams has been your best all-around linebacker, but Adams also hasn't been starting, and I would anticipate now you're going to see a little bit more from Jamal Adams and him getting his starts. What up, Bill? I agree Geno should be benched, but not happening. Pete is probably thinking the Titans are the get-right game for Geno. I agree. More questions need to be asked about the locker room, though. Those questions won't be asked. And, I get really frustrated with some of the Raiders beat writers and the people that ask Raiders questions during their press conferences because the questions that are being asked are an absolute flipping joke. And if that's what journalism is nowadays, I understand why the Raiders report shits and crushes every single journalist and every single beat reporter out there. It totally makes sense to me because you're just wasting our time with the questions that are being asked. But I also know that the Raiders' questions that are being asked a lot of times are dictated by the team. And I don't think that the team is going to allow you to ask questions about the locker room because the Raiders know that there are issues inside of that locker room. That's the honest truth. Now, if somebody has the balls to do it anyway, credit to you. I'll tell you this, I would still ask the question. And if they're telling me, hey, you can't come to Raiders press conferences anymore if you ask questions like that, well, then I don't want to go. My time is more valuable, right? Like, if I can't ask the questions that I feel like deserve to be asked, then you're just wasting everybody's time by going. And I get it. Like, I had, one person who I talked to that asked questions to the Raiders on media day. That's kind of what he hit me with. He's like, well, I'm worried that they're going to take my media credentials away. And I get that, for certain people, you got to be able to do what you're going to do. But I'll tell you this right now, I wouldn't give a shit. I wouldn't give a shit because my job, when I say my job, if I'm a journalist, my job is to be able to talk about what people want to hear. And if you're being silenced by the people that are doing it, that's an even bigger problem. Raider J, do you think Pete will bench Geno after or before the bye week? I mean, at this point, you got to think that he's not going to bench him. Because I do think that the Titans are probably a get-right game. And then he's going to hit us with, well, I don't know if it's smart to change a quarterback before going in to the game against Kansas City Chiefs. So I might make the argument it might actually help us win if you play Geno against the Titans, then you start Kenny Pickett. That way they have no tape on Pickett, and they don't know exactly what to scheme for. But if I'm guessing, if I'm Pete, they're going to roll with him until after the bye week. And then they're going to go into that next game, week 9. They're going to see what they got, and if still nothing is corrected after them, then, and just then, I think is meant when you might see a change. If I'm going to guess, week 10, Thursday Night Football, Broncos is the earliest that the change would happen. If the Raiders were a bowl of, we would be a bowl of, are you saying like cigarette butts? I cannot lie. Raider, yo! Mark Davis, Tom Brady can't be happy with this. You think they will step in? I don't think that they're going to step in. And I think for Mark, he's at a loss for words because Mark, in his mind, did everything right this offseason. The problem is the people that he hired, they got lazy on him. The problem is Pete Carroll and John Spytek didn't live up to their word. And I don't give a shit what Pete says. I don't give a shit what John Spytek says. I know what those two guys told Mark Davis, and I know what type of football team they told him that they were going to be able to build. And it's not the team that's on the field. I promise you that. Mando, is this a tank or are we just cheeks? I think we're just cheeks. I think we're just cheeks because, again, Pete Carroll said in front of everybody at the podium he expected the Raiders to win. Do you remember what Pete Carroll said a few months ago? This team's going to do a lot of winning. A bunch of winning, I think is actually the quote. That this Raiders team is going to do a bunch of winning. Quote, Pete Carroll. Jersey boy. Who's the next fall guy? My the name that I said was Greg Olsen, the Raiders quarterback coach. Because you're not going to fire Chip. Clearly he's not going to blame Geno. So to me, the fall guy, Greg Olsen. I don't know. Somebody who's already been fired by the Raiders. That's my guess. Jefferson, shout out to you. God family, Raiders for life. What up, man? all this talk about drafting a quarterback is crazy to me. I would trade our top 10 pick for a mid-first and an extra second, then draft the best right tackle available in the first, 2 guards with our second, and move JPJ back to center. And I agree with you in the sense of I don't think drafting a rookie quarterback is going to fix this team. I don't. To me, if I would fix this team, I'm building the trenches up. And I'm going to try to build on both sides of the football, offense and defensive side of the trenches. But I also understand teams and people wanting a new, young, offensive-minded head coach and a new quarterback to build around that guy. Pete's going to be the head coach of this team for this year and honestly the next 2 years. And I think that we just got to be able to be okay with that, no matter how bad it gets. Pete's not going anywhere. John's not going anywhere. It's going to be your team. And knowing that, and knowing how stubborn Pete is right now with Geno, I think we got to build that offensive line. We got to build that defensive line. And I'm investing my picks in the trenches. But I think right now to say top 10 pick, I think we're almost a lock to have a top 10 pick. I think right now we're more in the top 5 range than top 10 range, if that makes sense. Like 6 to 10 or 1 to 5, I think we're in the 1 to 5 range. That's how bad we are right now. Doesn't mean we can't correct it. Doesn't mean we can't change it. But based on my eyeballs and what we've seen so far, we're a top 5 pick team type of bad. And that's really, really sad, quite frankly. Reminder, y'all, if you want to get in the duck race, $20 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365. Here's what we're going to do. We're actually going to run this duck race. I do have one more segment that I got to be able to get to here on today's show, so please just keep that one in mind. But to the people that are in the duck race right now, it's a $10 Venmo. I see Philip Bogert got it in. I see Chadwick got it in. Justine Gonzalez got it in. And then Christian Eris decided to get it in. Anthony Green is in there. So it's only 10, Anthony. Sorry, I might have said 20. It might just be a habit. It's a 10. $10 Venmo, Mitchell Renz 365. Right now you have a chance to win $60. What do you say? No, he sent 10. He sent 10. All right, y'all. Mondo, Mitch, thanks for all you do. A glimpse of hope. That's what it's about, man. I'm trying to give y'all a glimpse of hope. I'm trying to give myself a glimpse of hope, in all honesty. So, I know I promised another segment on today's program, and the next segment that we're going to get into here is some of the top news, some of the top storylines that are going on right now, and as we are heading into week 6 of the NFL season up against the Tennessee Titans, we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive into that. Then after that segment is when we will do the duck race. Armando, all primetime games should be played in Oakland. Rent the stadium for the people. LV ain't it. So you want Mark Davis to spend even more money. You know, like you're asking him to rent out a stadium. I love the Oakland tailgates. But also at the same time, the Las Vegas stadium is beautiful. It is. It's a beautiful stadium. Oakland, I don't know if you could use the word beautiful for the Oakland Stadium. It's got the history. It's got that feel right, you know, and it's always going to feel like home. And that's kind of how, you know, I don't blame Raider fans for wanting to, you know, go back home, to go back to Oakland. But I would look at it the way that I would look at this. I'm from the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. I'm not Amish, but I'm from Amish country. Central PA, shout out to the 570. I love my hometown. Love it, love it, love it. You get that special feel. Honestly, man, you get that special feel when you're there. But I would never go back and live in my hometown. I love where I live now. I love where I'm at now. And I get like wanting to go back to those days. But I don't think that you miss the Oakland Coliseum. I think you miss what the Raiders were in the Oakland Coliseum. And I think if the Raiders started to win football games, look at the first Monday night game that we had against the Chargers. 86% Raiders fans. That place was freaking blacked out. What did the Raiders do to reward us? A 3-interception game by Geno Smith, and we've been terrible ever since. Like, the Allegiant Stadium will get to what we're hoping for when the Raiders start winning games. It's just you're asking Raiders fans to pay outlandish prices, the highest price tickets in the NFL, for a horrific product. Like you wouldn't go to a fast food restaurant if you had to pay Michelin star prices. You wouldn't do it, right? Like, no chance you would. If you had to pay $100 for a Big Mac, you ain't going to get that Big Mac, right? Like, if the Raiders' performance dictated what the prices were, I think more people would go. And I think more people would have that home field advantage. And more people wouldn't be so upset when the game goes as bad as it goes because, you're like, oh, I paid $150 for a Raiders ticket. Yeah, they played bad, but you know what? I can still look at that experience and being like, that was worth that experience. Now, you got to pay for a hotel. You got to pay for a flight probably for just the cost in general of how expensive it is in Las Vegas. Then on top of that, you pay for the Raiders ticket. Like, when you add all that and then you just, like, it doesn't justify the experience. And that's why people are getting upset. There's obviously a lot more reasons, too. Locho, Chugs Cam. Chugs will be with us for Monday Night Football. Doug Sherbert, Mitch, do you think Mark will have the balls to fire Pete after one season, or are we stuck with Pete for 3 seasons? I would say we are stuck with Pete for 3 seasons. And the only way that I think it's anything less than 3 seasons is 2 seasons. And that's if Geno Smith is still historically bad. Maybe Pete would be like, oh, I want a shot. But at that point, if Geno Smith gets moved on from, it's time to move on from Pete Carroll. Like, I don't want Pete Carroll to have the opportunity to work with a new quarterback that we draft. Don't want it. If Pete Carroll fails with his guy, and if Pete Carroll gets everything he wants, Pete Carroll's been getting everything he wants this offseason. If you fail getting everything you want, you don't deserve another shot. You don't. Quite frankly, you don't. All right, here's what I want to do. I want to get into our next segment. I see a super chat coming in from Dr. K. Greatly, greatly appreciated. We're going to get to that super chat after. Oh, we'll get to it now. You're good. If any more super chats come in, we'll get to it after the segment. Bro, this has been painful. So miserable having the draft be our Super Bowl. Love what you do. You're truly the voice of the nation. Year 3 must be the plan, like you said, this offseason. I do think that the plan has been all along that the Raiders are trying to be that Super Bowl caliber team by the year 2027. I did expect more, at least some sort of growth. Like, in my mind, I was like hopeful that we could get to 8 to 9 wins, right, this year. Then the next year, you try to get to 9 to 10. The year after that, you try to get to 11 and 12. I think right now, you're kind of hoping for 6 to 7 wins this season. And then next year, you're probably hoping for the 8 to 9 win season. And then after that, you're hoping for the double-digit win season. But I appreciate you calling me the voice. I also like to believe that I am the voice of Raider Nation. And quite frankly, I'm not saying that as like I'm the best there is. I'm saying it more from a respect level where there's not a person that makes more content around the Raiders than me. I also don't think that there's a person that could get Raider Nation to rally with them better than me. And I know that I'm not employed by the Raiders, but with all due respect, there's not a single person employed by the Raiders that can even sniff what we do here at the Raiders Report. There's not a single guy. I run laps around every single person employed by the Raiders. And maybe that's the problem, right? Like, maybe the problem is Mark's too busy hiring just his buddies, right? Maybe that's an organization that's just too busy around hiring guys that are just buddies and their friends. I might not be your buddy, pal, but I do think that I'm the voice of Raider Nation, and I hold that very, very near and dear to my heart. And maybe that's a cocky thing to say, and it probably is a cocky thing to say. But at the same time, I feel like respect is earned. It's not given. And right now, I feel like I've earned the respect of a lot of people. So, I greatly appreciate that. I just wish that same level of respect, that same level of what you're talking about here could be put to our team because, again, just giving the keys to Geno and not asking him to compete is driving me nuts right now. It's making me sick, quite frankly. All right, y'all, let's talk about the top storylines around the Raiders heading into Week 6 against the Tennessee Titans. There's a lot to unpack here. Let's be real, right? I mean, there is a lot, and I mean a lot, to unpack. Quite frankly, I actually made this show before the news of the release of Germaine Pratt, and I think right now that's also going to be a storyline that's going to be trending this week, is what exactly is happening inside of this Raiders locker room. Because there's a lot going on. Coming up, let's talk about top storylines around the nation right now. The must-see Raiders news and storylines heading into Week 6 against the Tennessee Titans. My name is Mitchell Renz. I am the host of the Raiders Report, and what you guys are going to see right now on this segment is me discussing and breaking down the top stories going on right now around Raider Nation as we get ready to go up to take on the Tennessee Titans. Now, if you do not know, I am going to be live this week at all the times that you see right now here on screen. If you do not know when I go live, here's a quick little key to do it. If you hit that subscribe button, and if you turn on those notifications every time I go live, every time I drop a video, you will be notified. That I can guarantee you. And you might have missed it. I talked a little bit about Germaine Pratt. If you missed that show, it's probably because you're not subscribed. Let's go to the first storyline here, though, around the Raiders, and it's heading in to Week 6. Is the Pete Carroll and John Spytek regime worse than the Josh McDaniels and Antonio Pierce regime? And I say that because, to me, Josh McDaniels and Antonio Pierce, they had no identity. Pete Carroll and John Spytek team has no identity. And I look at the product on the field in the first 5 games. The Las Vegas Raiders underneath Pete Carroll and John Spytek, the first 5 games are in fact worse than Josh McDaniels and the Antonio Pierce-led Raiders teams. It's a fact whether you want to look at wins and losses, whether you want to look at it from a talent standpoint. Right now, it is a worse overall regime. And I say that because the Raiders are 1-4. They look completely hopeless, and they are failing as an organization. Pete said that he expected to be winning. He said this offseason that, quote, the Raiders are going to do a lot of winning this season. I don't care what anybody else says. So not only did your coaching staff think that they were going to win, but outside of the 2025 draft class, who else looks good? Because Genty's the only guy that I have any confidence in right now moving forward. We're a 1-4 football team that's got no identity, that kind of looks like it's in a rebuild, yet we're not playing any of our young players. And then we're failing in all 3 phases of the game. We're failing on offense. We're failing on defense. We're failing on special teams. And now you got players that are quitting on you, and now you got players and coaches going at it in the locker room. And I know Germaine Pratt was released by the Raiders on Monday, and if you didn't see the video that I put out on Monday, there's other shit that is brewing right now between the Raiders. But when you have failing on all 3 phases, your draft class is bad, you had opportunities to improve in free agency. In my mind right now, I look at this team going, you failed in the draft, you failed this entire offseason, you failed during free agency, you're failing during the season, and now you're failing in all 3 phases of the game, and you have absolutely positively no identity, and you got players inside that locker room that don't agree with your coaches, and you got guys giving up on each other. That is the definition of a big old fat fail, and that's where we stand right now. Let's go to the second storyline here. Will Pete Carroll have the stones to bench Geno Smith? I know Pete already came out on Monday, and he said no other changes are going to be made. Proves to me that Pete Carroll doesn't live by his own mantra. It proves to me that Pete Carroll is a hypocrite. And I'm serious when I say that. Pete, I think you're a hypocrite right now. I'm not saying that you're not a good human being. I'm not saying that you're not an outstanding person. But right now, I'm going to call a spade. And you are the definition of a hypocrite because you are asking all of your players to compete, but you're not asking the number 1 guy that you brought in because you guys are buddy-buddy to go out there and compete. It's really getting annoying. And, Pete Carroll was asked yesterday about the benching of Geno Smith, and this is what he said. I was thinking that there was a reason to do that, but here's the reason why I didn't do that. We need to stay out there and keep practicing. We need to keep practicing. We need the reps. We need the turns. We need to run the system. We need to feel it. We need to see the guys get their opportunities to improve. It's not like a big change. I thought about it because there was a chance to do that. That's not what's necessary. We need to get better to get it right. Now, here's going to be my deal out there. And I know I had a lot of people over the past 24 hours say, Mitch, can you do a video about benching Geno Smith? And can you do a video about potential replacements that the Raiders could go out and get? At this point in the season, my job here as the Raiders Sport host is to make sure that the people that watch this show, that Raider Nation, they have a good time when they watch the show. If you want me to make a video about the top replacements that the Raiders could go out and get, I'll be honest, I don't think they're going to go out and get anybody. I think they already went out and got Kenny Pickett. But I've heard names like Russell Wilson. I've heard names like Shedeur Sanders. I've heard names over and over and over again. Here's my deal to you. If you want me to make a video about benching Geno Smith and going out and getting other quarterbacks, if this video gets 1,000 likes, I'm going to do it. It's going to prove to me that this is the type of content that you want, and if the Raiders aren't going to give you what they want on the field, I'm going to do everything in my power to give you what you want off the field. Let's go to storyline number 3 here. Is Geno Smith's career over already in Las Vegas? Now, I know Pete Carroll said on Monday that he's not going to bench Geno Smith. I hear you loud and clear. So he's going to get another opportunity, and quite frankly, this has got to be the get-right game for Geno. It's got to be the get-right game for the Raiders. You're going up against who I think most people would say is the worst team in the NFL, against the Tennessee Titans. Some people might say it's the Jets who don't have a win yet. Hell, some people might say it's the silver and black. But Pete Carroll said some interesting things after that game. Geno Smith also said some interesting things after the game against the Colts, and here's what number 7 said. It's a one-play-at-a-time game, and what you do on the previous down does not matter. You got to stay in the moment. You got to execute in the moment. One play at a time. Nothing you did the last game, last season, last week, in practice, none of that stuff matters. Man, it's about executing on game day, getting to the game and play at a time, doing your job, every single guy. That's what Geno Smith had to say. And what I find interesting about that quote is maybe you should show it to Pete Carroll. And because to me, the only reason why Geno doesn't have to compete for his job, the only reason why Geno Smith is still a starter of this team, the only reason why you're not making an adjustment at the quarterback position, or at least thinking about it, is because of everything Geno Smith did with the Raider, or with Pete Carroll, with the Seattle Seahawks, and with that previous regime. I mean, Geno just said it. Doesn't matter what you did in the years past. Doesn't matter what you did the week before. I agree. You know what does matter, though? The moment that when you're playing, when it's that bad, it does matter what you did last game. It does matter what you did the last play, because when you show us on film that you clearly aren't the quarterback that we traded for, when you show clearly on film that you're not the guy that we extended, when you clearly show that Geno Smith is not the quarterback that he was the last 3 seasons, in Seattle, you can make those decisions. But Geno also goes on and he says this: all 11 doing their job on all sides of the ball, taking the approach that we're going to get it done. There is nothing else that matters. This is the big boy league. This is the NFL. It's the best of the best, and you got to go out there and you got to get it done. Like I said, until we figure that out, we're going to have the same results. So I want y'all to let Geno Smith hear what you got to say, because Geno also said something that rubbed me the wrong way, and he was like, Raider Nation needs to be patient. Listen to Pete Carroll. He says, Raider Nation needs to be patient. I've been patient. We've been patient. I think, honestly, we've been overly patient. But you just get to a point where soon enough is enough. And I just need to know if we're moving in the right direction. So here's what I'm going to say. I can't guarantee Geno Smith's going to see this, because Geno Smith has blocked me from being able to comment at him, which I think is very soft. Geno, what do you want to say to Geno Smith right now? My answer, my message to the Raiders quarterback here after this YouTube ad break. My message to Geno Smith: great leaders find solutions to problems. It is time for Geno Smith to either earn and, what's the right way to say it? It's now time for Geno Smith to earn that captain status. It is time for Geno Smith to prove to Raider Nation that he is deserving to be the franchise quarterback, that he is deserving of $66 million, because the play on the field hasn't shown it. The body language off the field hasn't shown it. The words at the podium mean absolutely nothing. Talk is cheap, Geno, when you don't back it up. And you're somebody that said you want to write back. I think it's time you should start writing back, because the Geno Smith that I saw in Seattle compared to the Geno Smith that I see right now at the Raiders, it's almost like somebody switched bodies and there's some sort of Freaky Friday situation going on. But you said it too. This is big boy football. And you said the best are playing out there. You're not one of the best right now. And if this is big boy football, then Pete Carroll needs to treat you like a big boy and sit you down and say, hey, if you're not going to play your best football, we got to look at our other options. Because if your ego is too much to be able to have the Raiders go out and make the proper adjustments, because, again, I'm using the word ego a lot, but I don't know what else it is at this point. I don't know if it's a Pete Carroll ego issue. I don't know if it's a Geno Smith ego issue. I don't know if it's a Chip Kelly ego issue. But right now, talk is cheap. And you're saying a lot of shit and you're not backing it up. But to me, let's find solutions to our problems. Instead of saying all 11 guys got to get on the same page, no effing shit, Geno. No effing shit. But let's make an adjustment here. And if you're not man enough to sit down and talk to those players, if Maxx Crosby's not man enough to sit down and talk to those players, if A.J. Cole's not man enough to sit down and talk to those players, take the C off your chest. You don't deserve it. Coming up next here, more Raiders storylines entering Week 6 against the Tennessee Titans. But good news, Prize Picks still rocking with us here on the Raiders Report. And you and I make decisions every single day. But being right can get you paid over on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Now, there is a new feature. Prize Picks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. You want to pick more on Geno Smith interceptions? Want to pick less on Geno Smith completion percentage? Want to pick less on Geno Smith touchdowns? Well, guess what? You can do that now over on Prize Picks. And it can only be done on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. If you want to go with a flex play, if you want to go with a power play, also that is totally up to you, which is something that I love that Prize Picks offers. So let's play a little bit of a game here. And let's just say you and I are sitting down in a room. We can put a Prize Picks lineup in, and it says 0.5 interceptions for Geno Smith. Would you say that he's going to throw more? Type more. If you're like less, type less. If this to you is an easy decision to make, then you should absolutely, positively go download the Prize Picks app today, because that's what Prize Picks is. In a very frustrating season, if you put in a lineup, it's going to give you something to root for. It's going to give you something to cheer for. And as bad as this season has been for the Raiders, I need everything I possibly can get my hands on in terms of cheering and rooting for. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Speaking of being right, our secondary is flipping garbage. It's garbage. Isaiah Paul-Mal's bad. We keep playing soft zone coverage, 3 safety high, and we're just not making any adjustments. Another adjustment that we're not making is we're just going to keep on rolling out Kai Blue Kelly, throwing him to the flipping Sharks. And I hate to say I told you so, Pete, but I told you so, Pete. Our cornerback room stinks. We need help. We've had money to be able to go out and add a corner all offseason. Maybe no corners want to play for the Raiders. I don't know. But Kai Blue Kelly has been cut by multiple other rosters. He's somebody that, quite frankly, I don't know if is good enough to be on some other team's practice squad. But yet, he continues to start for us. And I get it. He was out there competing. And I get it. He was out there doing a lot of the right things that he was doing during the practice. I hear you. But when you look at game substitutions, the Raiders sub package are dead last in the NFL. What does that tell me? That they don't have confidence in a lot of their other depth right now for the Raiders cornerback room. But I thought Pete Carroll was supposed to be a cornerback whisperer. I don't know what he's whispering to Kai Blue Kelly. I don't know what he's whispering to Darian Porter. I don't know what he's whispering right now to DeCamerion Richardson. But whatever he's whispering is it's got to be giving them swimmers here, because either they're not listening or there's a lot of shitty things that are being said, because Kai Blue Kelly has been horrible this season. He has allowed 346 yards this season. That is the most in the NFL. If you want to just know who the second closest guy is, Riley Moss from the Denver Broncos has allowed 262, which means, basically, the one Raiders corner has allowed almost 80 yards more than the next closest guy. Why? Because our system is broken. Because we're not generating pressure. We're asking guys to play soft zone, and we don't have guys that can cover. It's an absolute joke, and it just proves that we don't know our players well. But I could have told you that. The nation could have told you that, but at least you're too stubborn to freaking realize it. Let's go to the final storyline here, and it's, will Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer return against the Titans? I sure hope so. Based on what I've been told, Brock is a coin flip, and that's only because our coaching staff doesn't necessarily know where Brock Bowers sits right now. But here's another malpractice. If Bowers was told by the medical staff that the only way that his knee is going to be able to heal is with rest, if after as soon as Bowers played in week 2, I saw that he wasn't healthy. You guys could tell that he wasn't healthy. We all could tell that he wasn't healthy. So what are we doing with our number one player on the offensive side of the football? We're just not putting these guys in the right situations. If both of these players do play, I think we have a chance to win. If Bowers and Mayer are unable to go, I'm hoping that Mayer's able to go after missing that concussion. Again, he was practicing in the red jersey, which kind of aligns with what happened to JPJ earlier in the offseason. But the other major storyline that people are going to be talking about is what's happening in that locker room. And there's going to be more details that come out. I'm going to do some more digging myself. But with the news of Germaine Pratt getting released, and again, if you did not see that news that the Raiders released Germaine Pratt, there's some confliction right now in that locker room between players and coaches. And that's got to be another storyline that we decide to discuss here on the show. And I think we got to discuss it as a fan base. I think we got to be able to get this more attention out there because there is some clear friction right now in that locker room. Before I get out of here, I saw a lot of comments today. And, I picked out 3 comments that they made me enjoy what I do. And, again, when the Raiders stink, I just see comments, and they do, man. They cheer me up. So, to Jake Rain, we appreciate your dedication year in and year out. Even the Raiders continue to disappoint. I'm never going to give up on the nation, just like I hope that y'all never give up on me. So, I know we got Noti gang, and I know we got real ones on here and people that bang and do a bunch of crazy shit. But if you don't think that I look at the comments every single day, you're even more senile than Pete Carroll and this coaching staff. In terms of atheist, is that militants? Hope I pronounced that right. Great video, Mitch. I know it hurts, but it was a video that was needed to be done. Thank you, sir. Now, all these comments are from my Overreaction Monday video that I put out, and I didn't know how it was going to turn, right? If you didn't see my video, you should definitely go check it out. It's not me hosting, I'll tell you that. Jacob, love you, Mitch. I'm a diehard too, man, but this has to stop. Thanks for making us the biggest voice in the NFL. If you made it this far in the video and you want your voice to be heard, the number one way any Raiders fan voice is going to be heard is if you subscribe to the Raiders Report. I can be loud. You can be loud, but we are very, very loud together. It's proven time and time again that our voice can be heard here on the Raiders Report. All right, y'all. Did the duck race happen from Giuseppe? No, not yet. We're about to do the duck race right now. Justine Gonzalez, Mitch, quit picking on me. Took my grandsons to the Bears game. Fam of 5 felt consolation. Looked like the win was possible. I mean, they actually played well against Chicago. I thought from top to bottom, they played well against the Chicago Bears. The only problem was your quarterback stunk. And if you don't have a shitty quarterback, I think you're at least 2-3 right now. But I'm always going to pick on you, right? Just like you should pick on me. We're not friends unless we're picking on each other. That's how I look at it, Justine. Let's go to James. Oh, God, don't mess with this guy. You do not want to mess with James freaking Lillard. I honestly believe Al made a deal with the devil back in the 70s. Give me 3 Super Bowls in the next 8 years. That devil has come to collect over the last 40. I hope you're wrong. I'll tell you that. I hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong. Because it's wild, man. You think Pete and Spytek are on the same page? I do not. I was told by a very good source that the Amari Cooper deal was 100% Pete Carroll. I also know what I was told about the plan that John would try to do to build this Raiders team, and it's just not even close to what I was told. So to me, I think Pete's calling more shots than Spytek, and I'll leave it like that because I don't think that this is a team that Spytek would put his name on. His name's going to get put on it, but I don't think Spytek, from what I was told, I don't think Spytek would put his name on this team. Mitch, Pete, and Geno preaching patience. A, what does that timeline look like? B, what does the end result look like? And I think that's kind of our frustration of, again, you could tell us patience. If the Raiders were 1-4 and all of our young players were, playing a lot better, and this team was fighting hard, like, I could sit up here and go, well, at least we're trending in the right direction, right? Like, at least it looks like we're going in the right direction. The problem is our players that we drafted outside of Genty all look like I don't know what to think right now. And our coaching staff is clearly not helping us get better, and I don't know what the timeline is, and I don't think that they know what it is because their timeline was to win right now, and you can throw that plan right out the window. And now the fact that you got to throw that plan out the window, this coaching staff and regime has already shown me that they're struggling to make adjustments. So now we got to make adjustments in the middle of the game, middle of the season. Yeah, I don't feel confident. Of course I don't feel confident. How could anybody feel confident? Let's go to Fennell Johnson. During Geno's press conference, it seems that he blamed his second interception on Thornton. I was really shocked at that. Geno is not the guy. Based on what I haven't listened to everything that Geno has said. I will say this. Geno literally baits that pass. The first one to me really wasn't necessarily on him. Again, the ball got batted at the line. It was super unlucky. I was more upset about Chip Kelly on that drive because I thought that they should have stuck with the run game and kept on running the football. But I'll have to go back and listen to it. Dante Thornton, though, has also been very underwhelming this season. He's not jumping. He's not showing his athletic ability. He's getting pushed around. He's looking like a soft player right now, and that's just the truth. That's the truth. All right, y'all. We are all caught up on all the supers, which means the only thing left to do is run this duck race. And the last time that I checked, I saw Christian was in. So I'm going to look down right now. Brian Baca, you in. LCA, in. Manuel Ruiz is going to get 2 of them. In. Yusef, you're in. I got you. I see Fabian getting his ducks in. And then I see Robert McEach. So that means, as it stands right now, sorry, Robert, I don't know how I spelled your name that wrong. Right now it is a $10 Venmo. You would go home with $105. $105 going to the winner on a Monday. All right, I'm going to send this list over to Reed, and then we are going to get this race started. And then after that, I'm going to hop on out of here, and then the next time y'all are going to see me, I will be live again in 2 hours and 57 minutes for Monday Night Football. Monday night! Though, maybe I'll go live, I don't know, an hour before Monday night starts. That way I give me and my guys a little bit extra time. We'll see. But I will be live for Monday Night Football, and we will be rooting against the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's go Jaguars. Let's go Jags, man. Let's go Jags. Let's go Jags. All right, final refresh. Got a few more people getting it in. William Hogue and then Joe Seppi. You all in. So now that means, here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do, winner's going to get $100. Winner's going to get $100. Second place gets 20. Yep. Second place gets 20. First place, $100. Second place, $20. Did you get both those names? All right. Let's do it. Go eat lunch with the misses. I wish I had time, man. I got to get ready for Monday Night Football. Unfortunately, I don't have time to go do it. I know. I wish I could. I don't know what this race is, but I'm down to get down. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Got a hedgehog race. Brian Folsom, that's a nice hog you got there.
It's a great hog.
It's a good-looking hog there.
Look, some of them roll. Watch.
Oh, Victor Lope. I didn't realize that we were going to get some guys rolling.
Look.
Baca.
Rolling.
Fabian. He's got blue balls. Clearly. He's got multiple hedgehogs that are blue. PJ Houston. Wait. Those aren't ducks.
Nope.
You're right.
They're hedgehogs.
Nothing gets by you.
Nothing gets by you.
Nothing gets by you. I see right now Philip Bogert, I would say, is the one with the
We
lead.
got 20 seconds.
Mo Shaw, Victor Lopez. The Joe Seppi and the bright yellow, I think, is in a good spot. Though I actually don't think I've ever
I
seen
like-
this race.
Justin might come back.
Manuel Ruiz, and Youssef
Money
are tied
Green.
together. I
Anthony
screwed it up.
Green. Oh, Chadwick.
Chadwick.
Out of nowhere.
Chadwick. So I realize I accidentally combined Manuel Ruiz and Youssef. So what I'm going to do to Manuel Ruiz and Youssef, I'm going to put you guys automatically in the duck race for Monday Night Football. I didn't hit enter down, so that's on me. So Youssef, Manuel Ruiz, you guys are automatically going to be in our Monday Night Football duck race. I apologize for that. In terms of who came in first, Chadwick. Chadwick. All right, Chadwick, I got you. Chadwick, $100 for first. Congrats. And then Mo Shav is going to go home with $20. Mo Shav, $20. Yeah, those hedgehogs are maybe a little too happy. All right, y'all. I'm hopping on out of here. Again, greatly appreciate each and every one of y'all for the commitment to excellence. I will do a boot to start Monday night, and basically my boot deal is going to be the same every single Monday show. To me, if we can get those questions in, it makes Mondays a lot easier because I want to talk and I want to vent our frustrations just like each and every one of y'all. If you're a frustrated Raider fan, pull up tonight. Win or lose, we're going to have fun. That I can promise you every time I go live here on this show. Shout out to Reed. Shout out to all y'all. I'll see you guys here in about 3 hours.